Welcome to another deadline stream. We're looking ahead to game week 6. Thank you very much to everyone who is in the chat right now. I really appreciate it. And wow, we've got so many things to go over. Of course, Bamford is ruled out officially of game week 6. A lot of you will have him. A lot of you are very unfortunate as well, getting rid of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who got injured, and then getting in Bamford. He gets the assist, but then gets injured subsequently. Then what's going to happen with Rafinha? And I'm going to offer my opinions, of course. With Bamford, we already know what's going to happen with him. It's just a matter of time of, when he's going to come back. In terms of my own team, I'll just give kind of a brief overview right now. And honestly, still not really sure about the 2 free transfers I want to make. So I definitely want to do Luke Ayling to a Chelsea defender despite the Manchester City fixture in game week 6. But it's the other transfer I'm not completely sure about. So do I do Jota or Greenwood to Sarr, or do I do Tony to a 4.5 million striker, which weakens my depth a little bit. But still, I think with Tony's fixtures, it might make some sense, I guess. With Jota and Greenwood, despite the fact I have some reservations about both of them, I think both of them can actually do pretty well in game week 6. So it's a bit of a tricky one to get rid of either of them. Even Benrahma as well, who showed what he can do, despite obviously how fortunate he was. And Cody, if I'm being honest, I'm not really too confident about him against Southampton. And if I were to bring in Rudiger or Alonso, for example, I could maybe just replace Cody for one of them. So that's kind of my initial thoughts at the moment. In terms of the captaincy, the same as before. You can still go with Antonio, but one thing that actually I haven't pointed out in any of my videos, he hasn't scored against Leeds United. I think it's his worst run against any single team. I think he's gone 9 games against them and he hasn't scored yet. Salah is always a good captaincy shout, but Ronaldo at home to Aston Villa, so something about that really appeals to me. So thank you very much to everyone who has joined in, and we've got a lot of comments here. I'm going to start reading them out. So thank you very much. Jamie asks, have you watched The Boys yet? I'm going to be watching it tonight maybe. Don't worry about that. Moante, welcome very much. Welcome Kobe. Hi man, hope you're good. Thank you. Aditya, hopefully I pronounced that right. Let me know if I didn't. Apologies for that. Welcome Jonathan. Thank you very much for joining in. Welcome Cherie. Hi Dylan, would you do a -4 to bring Antonio back in for Bamford? It's a tricky one, but honestly I probably would, because I think Antonio could pay off the hit. Despite what I just said about his record being so poor against Leeds, I think it could be worth it. Moante says, starting Rafinha, got Livramento as first sub just in case. I think that is actually, it makes complete sense. There is the odd possibility of Rafinha being in the squad and then Leeds are in a position where they need something against West Ham. They might be trailing and they bring Rafinha on. That is possible. But really with Rafinha, you want him to either start or not play at all, really. You wouldn't expect him to do too well off the bench, but you never know then again. He's a good player. Torres to Sarr for a -4, worth it this week? I think considering the fact that Torres could miss one of these upcoming 2 games and they're very difficult, they're up against 2 of the best defences in the league alongside Manchester City, I think it might be worth it. And Sarr is facing 2 of the worst defences. He's facing Newcastle, who have quite a few injury problems and they're just not really clicking at the moment. And then he faces Leeds, who they're literally absolutely down to the bare bones because of the amount of injuries they have. Thoughts on this defence for my wildcard? Azpilicueta, Rudiger, Semedo, Cancelo, Vestergaard. I like it. I can see why he went with Vestergaard, but I personally don't trust Leicester defence too much. He could be an option going forward, so you might be ahead of the curve there. That's a really strong defence. I mean, you're going really big at the back. I personally would... I still prefer Alonso over Azpilicueta. Since you already have Rudiger, who's kind of the more nailed Chelsea defender, you could get Alonso in for Azpilicueta, a bit more attacking returns. And Semedo's fine, On a wild card, would I be bringing him in? I'm not too sure. I'd even be tempted to maybe go for a Livramento or White for one of Vestergaard or Semedo. And yeah, but I think Rudiger and Cancelo, definitely 2 of the best options you can go for on a wild card. Welcome, Chris El Famoso. Thank you for joining in. Hey Dylan, how are you, lad? I'm good, mate. What about you? Hopefully you are doing really well. Will Rafinha play? I personally think he will, but he's touch and go. This is the thing. He might not even play at all. I think he'll be in the squad, but will he start? That's going to be kind of 50-50. But if you're asking me, I personally think he will. And I said this heading into game week 5 about Rafinha and also Benrahma and all these other sorts of players. But of course, I'm not going to get it right all the time. And it was just my intuition. I could be completely wrong this time. Jota to Townsend, punt it. I mean, fair enough. I personally wouldn't do that. I would prefer having Sarr. I know why you'd go for Townsend. He is facing Norwich, but I'm not too sure about that. Ramsdale or Sanchez? Assuming Ramsdale can maintain that starting berth, I would prefer Ramsdale, especially if you look at a game like Sky Fantasy Football, if you play that. But I'm not too sure, because one bad performance or just one really good performance by Leno in the Cups, and he could lose out there. But Arsenal have 2 good keepers, and Ramsdale could easily be benched. So, look, As things stand, I would prefer Ramsdale, but Sanchez is just a safer pick in my opinion. I'm planning to make Antonio to Bamford. Should I take a hit to replace Torres with Sarr? I probably would, to be honest. I probably would do that, despite the fact I'm not really a big fan of hits. Welcome, Mon Kumar. Thank you for joining in. Hello, Dylan. I took a -4 hit to bring in Sarr and Ronaldo. That makes sense, and you can always, in a few game weeks' time, get rid of Ronaldo for Lukaku if you don't have him already. I think both of them could do extremely well this week, and maybe even in game week 7. Hey, Dylan. Tony and Jota to Sarr and Saint Maximin. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, I can see why you did that. I think, at least in the short term, that will pay off. Long term, I think Tony is a better asset than Saint Maximin, but I can see why you did it, and you can always switch back. And Saint Maximin has been in electric form. Newcastle, though, are just such a poor team, in my opinion. Hey, Dylan, Tony... Oh, no, sorry, I read that. Chilwell started in Carabao Cup, so will it be safe to bring in Alonso? And he actually missed a penalty against Aston Villa. In my opinion, Alonso will start again against Manchester City, but from now on, especially with these easier games coming up, I think Chilwell might start featuring more often than not. And under Tuchel, it's pretty much kind of 50-50. I think Alonso has started 54% of the games and Chilwell has started 46%. So very difficult, to be honest. I think Rudiger, if you want to go safe, go for him. And that's why, I'm very tempted by Alonso and his attacking stats, but there is the possibility of Chilwell coming back in. Maybe not just yet, as I just said, but I think in the weeks to come, it might be an issue. Opinion... Oh, Jesus, voice crack already, not going well. Opinion of Kovacic for FPL. Have James, can't afford Rudiger, was going to go Christensen, have Lukaku, thanks. So yeah, Kovacic has been doing really well this season, especially from an attacking perspective. We're normally not really associating him with that, but of course he's doing so well. He's a quality player. I still prefer having these kind of double Chelsea defenders, and because you already have Reece James and you can't afford Rudiger, I would actually recommend Christensen if possible, because he's the type of player that will either start or not come on really, and that's ideal. If you have defensive depth, I think Christensen is the one to go for, but Kovacic, he's a good asset around his price, but I still would prefer Gallagher and Gray. I just think long term they're going to be more sustainable in terms of attacking output, and same with Ismaila Sarr if you can stretch out to 6.1 million. What are your current transfer thoughts? Yeah, as I said before, either... Let me actually show you on screen. So I could do this. 2 free transfers, get in Rudiger, Alonso or Christensen, any one of them really, doesn't matter. In for Ayling, and that's pretty much kind of a dead cert in my opinion. And then I can get rid of either Jota or Greenwood for Ismaila Sarr. And I think that could be actually a pretty good transfer. The problem is I can see Jota and Greenwood doing well this week. And the other set of transfers I'm thinking, well, once again, getting a Chelsea defender in for Ayling, nothing changes there. But instead, I will downgrade Tony to a 4.5 million striker. And then long term, maybe that'll give me more funds to upgrade Brownhill, for example. Or maybe Cody. So I think with this one, where I downgrade Tony... I could potentially start stretching out. Maybe, for example, Luke Shaw I can make into a Christensen or Alonso, and Cody could become Cancelo. That is something that is possible. But to be honest, I think I'd have even more money. I got 0.7 million, so not too much difference here. But I would really like to, if possible, build a team with 1 or 2 Chelsea defenders, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Cancelo at the back. I think going big at the back and maybe having a 5th choice like Livramento, Duffy or White is actually the way to go. And looking at the kind of midfielder options, Greenwood's not really impressing too much. Ferran Torres is a rotation risk, and that's always going to be part and parcel of a Pep Guardiola asset. And then the other one, Diego Jota. I mean, Firmino's coming back, although... If you're looking at the next international break, if Firmino does travel with Brazil, which he probably will be missing game week 8, 9, and that's where Jota can come in once again against Watford, for example. So it's a difficult one, but those are my transfer plans at the moment. Let me know what you guys think, and of course I will take your feedback. I do rate it, and it could actually give me a good idea of what to do with my team. So let's see, I'm probably missing around a lot of comments at the moment, so apologies for that. Let's see. Hey Dylan, Sarr or Gray? I prefer Sarr. Look, Gray can outperform Sarr this game week, but I just think even long term, 3-5 game weeks, despite Gray having better fixtures, I would prefer Sarr. The only kind of bad thing about it is that Everton are better offensively and even as a whole team than Watford, but I prefer Sarr as an asset. Hey mate, your punt on Tony paid off. I wouldn't really call it a punt, but obviously thank you Fred. It's because I didn't have 2 free transfers, otherwise I probably would have gotten rid of Tony ahead of game week 5 and that would have backfired. I saw some people taking hits to get Jimenez in for Tony. Obviously that was a massive... Obviously, it's a good decision on paper, but these things can happen. And yeah, Wolves are the new Brighton really. Hi Dylan, please rate my squad. Matip, Trent, Shaw, Sanchez, Salah, Gray, Greenwood, Benrahma, Ronaldo captain, Antonio Sanchez. It's a really good team, to be honest. Yeah, I don't really think there's like a big weakness. Matip, once again, I'll say this about him. I'm not really a big fan of him. He's kind of a rotation risk. He's injury prone. So I would rather have another defender instead of him. Sure, going into the future, you can replace him with a City or Chelsea defender. And same thing goes for Matip, really. And the rest is fine, to be honest. Greenwood, obviously, keep an eye on him. He's someone that you could maybe downgrade to someone else. And let me double check your team, actually. You could potentially, get Sarr, for example, in for Greenwood. But other than that, the team is pretty good, to be honest. And yeah, let me just load up the chat in here. And yeah. Let's see. Thank you very much to everyone who is watching. Really appreciate it. And wow, yeah, we've got a lot of people here. And remember to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Thank you very much to everyone who has joined in. Let's see. Salah gave me 36 points. I played triple captain on him. That's a pretty good one. You can always obviously save it for another game week, maybe like a Norwich at home or a double game week, but that's still a pretty decent return. And trying to think of my triple captains. Yeah, it tends to be maybe 8 to 12 points. Let's see what happens this year. Game week 7 plans, bring in Rudiger in for Shaw and Bamford in for Tony if he's fit. Thoughts? Yeah, I think that's a really good plan, to be honest. But yeah, Bamford, obviously, we'll wait and see if he's fit ahead of game week 7, but that makes complete sense. And I'd probably do something similar in your situation. Sarr over Gray, I agree, Ali. Hey man, how are you doing? I'm confused. Remove Tony, bring in Maximan, or remove Traore, bring in Sarr. I would get rid of Traore and get in Sarr. I think long term, Tony's a better option than, say, Maximan. And Sarr is just better than Traore, in my opinion. Jimenez a good option until DCL returns. I still think so. You'd think anyway, he's due a return. But yeah, I think he is still a good option. I just prefer Antonio, even Tony potentially, and others. But of course, Tony has very poor fixtures. Do you prefer Sarr or Zaha for the next 2 games? Definitely Sarr, Harry. Game week 8 wildcard team: Foster, Begovic, Cancelo, Diaz, Rudiger, Livramento, Duffy, Mendy 4.4, Gallagher, Salah, Foden, Son, Maupay, Antonio, Lukaku. It's a pretty good team. Some nice differentials in there like Foden and Maupay. I'm still not too keen on Maupay and even Foden because of the rotation risk, but the rest looks very good, especially at the back with Cancelo, Diaz and Rudiger. You could even potentially go for an Alonso, but yeah, I mean, double City defence isn't a bad thing either. Should I start Begovic or Sanchez? And in my defence, I have White, Cody, Shaw, Duffy. Which 3 should I start? I probably would start Begovic, although I'm not too confident in Everton. And in the defence, I would probably go for Shaw, Duffy and Cody. Yeah, I probably would do that. Yeah, the deadline is tomorrow. I'm just doing the deadline stream on Friday because most people do prefer it. But of course, let me know what you think. Coop Dog. I took 2 hits to bring in, say, Maximan and Salah. Is that a good decision? I mean, yeah. I mean, anything to get in Salah, I think, is a good move. And he's a great option long term. You don't want to go without him. Say Maximan could be a good punt for the next few game weeks. I just don't like him too much long term, if I'm being honest. Is Reece James a good option than Alonso? Do you think he will start from the next game week onwards? He started every single game against Manchester City under Thomas Tuchel, but I'm not too sure about that. What I do think, in my opinion anyway, for Reece James, during this kind of good fixture run for Chelsea, I think he's going to start quite a few of those games. Alonso at this moment in time is definitely more nailed, but that could easily change. And maybe Reece James didn't play against Spurs because of him being burgled the other day, pretty much leading up to that. But still, I think Reece James is a good option, of course. And if you did get him in, obviously just stick to him. I wouldn't be getting rid of him just yet. But yeah, I mean, with Reece James, the problem with him is he could come on for a 1-pointer easily. And that really wouldn't be the case too much with a Marcos Alonso or even a Rudiger. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, apologies. Yeah, the chat kind of bugged out there. Rafinha and Bamford to Sarr and say Maximan for a -4. I mean, yeah, I think I'd probably go ahead with it. I'm not too keen on, say, Maximan, but it could be worth it, to be honest. Hey, Dylan, nice score last week. Think you'll try the cheeky Foster in again this week? I might, to be honest. I might, especially with some of the injuries Newcastle have. It is very tempting. It's just Sanchez and Brighton have a pretty decent defence, but then again, Palace is probably a tougher fixture at this moment in time than Newcastle. Using my wildcard this week, going big at the back with Alonso, Rudiger, Christensen, Cancelo, Trent. Your thoughts, please? Also planning ahead with those defenders. Yeah, I like those defenders a lot, to be honest. Triple Chelsea defence is very interesting. I'd probably just go with 2 and go with Lukaku up front. But still, that looks very good, and that's really big at the back. I mean, we're talking about pretty much 5 expensive players, really. Christensen's arguably a bit, I'd say cheap, but yeah. Van Dijk and Benrahma or Trent and Gallagher? As a duo, Van Dijk and Benrahma is maybe better, but I'd probably say Trent and Gallagher long term. Should I keep Tony? This is the thing. I mean, over the next 4 game weeks, you might be struggling to think, when am I going to play and when am I going to bench him? You could always get rid of him and maybe invest more money into your midfield, maybe do 2 free transfers and get Sarr in the midfield, for example, if you don't have him already. But I'm not too infused with, say, Maximan and all the other options around his price. Armstrong could be very good when his fixture run comes about around game week 8. But yeah, I'm not really too I'd say, enthralled by the options at the moment. Dylan, I think your team is decent. The only concern I have is Cody and Tony for this week, then Jota for the week after. I agree, to be honest. But that's the thing. You can't have a perfect team every week. Cody is definitely a big concern. Ayling is the weak link in my opinion, so that's why a switch to a Chelsea defender is pretty simple. It's just whether I get rid of Greenwood, Jota or Tony. And of course, if I get rid of one of the midfielders I can get in Ismaila Sarr. No problem, home sweet home. Thank you for joining in. Rafinha to Sarr. I mean, it depends what other midfielders you have, but there is a chance Rafinha doesn't start, and that's when you can just easily do the switch to Sarr. Tony good after game week 10. Yeah, he's got good fixtures at least until game week 12. Then a few difficult ones coming up straight after that. But yeah, after game week 10, you'd say the fixtures improve pretty significantly. And he faces 3 of the worst offences in that period from game week 10 to 12. Best Bamford replacement, Joshua King. Got him last week, got 10 points, nailed striker and on pens. Newcastle and Leeds next. Best punt for game week 8 wildcard. Yeah, I've seen a few people mention him, not too many though. He could be a decent one as well, but I still prefer others, in my opinion. I mean, even say Maximan over the next few, maybe I would prefer him over King, but I mean, that's a fair shout, to be honest. Thoughts on Reece James? I think he's going to play more games from now on, but still the same issues remain. He's going to occasionally be benched, and he's occasionally going to come on for a 1-pointer, which is very frustrating. Antonio hat-trick week? Potentially. I mean, remember, he's never scored against Leeds, so that could be something to think about, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind too much, I guess. Thanks. Was going to punt on Zaha, but Sarr is the obvious choice for a reason. Have a good game week all. Thank you, Harry. I mean, yeah, look, Zaha can still do really well, and what I will say is he has a great record against Brighton, but I still prefer Sarr. I was going to save my transfer this week, but with Foster being a 4 million playing keeper at home to Newcastle, decided to get him in. Wow, that's an unorthodox transfer. Hopefully it works out for you. I might actually consider getting him into my team in my starting lineup. Benching Tony for this game week, can't see Brentford scoring. I think they could, but obviously, more likely than not, they're going to probably, struggle to score a goal, and you wouldn't really see them scoring 2 or more. Also scored 84 points, sick wildcard. That's pretty good. Obviously, the main thing with the wildcard is looking long term. Does it pay off? And hopefully it does for you, but that's a good score. Is Pickford playing again? Because it said he's injured until 17th of October, but it doesn't say that anymore. I still think Begovic is going to play, but of course, the press conferences have come about, and yeah, I mean, FPL pretty much update them instantly, and they only base it off, what's been said by the managers and all the latest injury news. But I think Begovic will be starting this one. Bring Antonio back for Bamford or get King and release funds to go aggressive to buy 2 Chelsea defenders next week. I like getting 2 Chelsea defenders and being slightly aggressive there, but I just prefer Antonio over King, to be honest. Should I double up on Chelsea defence from Game Week 7 onwards? Yes, or I would probably go for 1 Chelsea defender and 1 City defender. Either of them are fine. Thoughts on Traore? If I had him, I probably would get rid of him. He can still do well in some of these fixtures, but he's just so unreliable, and I've never got him in or considered him really for my team because I just don't trust him. Chelsea were defensively very solid versus Spurs, and Thiago Silva man of the match with Alonso a close second. Would be very surprised if Tuchel changes anything at the back. True, but then again, Tuchel Tombola is a thing, but I do agree, and yeah, Thiago Silva is kind of the one who is in and out of the side because he is quite old now. He's 36, 37, so yeah, I mean, in this fixture, I think he will not change things, although, you never know with Thomas Tuchel. Mount replacement for a -4. I think Sarr, if you don't have him already, or, I mean, this is the thing, Rafinha, if he was fit, was definitely, one to kind of set and forget for the next 5 to 10 game weeks, but even then, his appeal is slightly reduced because Bamford is not fit for game week 6. Would you hold Bamford if I had a bench of Livramento, Tierney and Sissoko this week? That's a pretty decent bench that could cover. I mean, this is the thing, if you're not really too kind of optimistic about the kind of replacements for Bamford, then you could just stick him in and just keep him and let your bench cover that, so yeah. Pookie or Wood? Good question. I mean, I prefer Wood, honestly. Chris Wood. I prefer Chris Wood over Pukki, but still, Pukki over the next 2 game weeks I think could do pretty well, to be honest. Demarai Gray as a differential captain, your thoughts? Yeah, I mean, if you really want to go differential, him and Sarr are probably the ones I'd look at, but I'm not going to go for that personally. I wouldn't do it myself. Evening Dylan, Rafinha out for Benrahma or Sarr? I'd probably get Ismaila Sarr over Benrahma at this moment in time. Thoughts on taking an extra hit to bring in Alonso? It depends who you get rid of, and remember, they are facing Manchester City, so maybe it's not ideal to take a hit for a Chelsea defender. Jota or Greenwood play game week 6? I think both of them will play, but once again, it's a very difficult one to kind of deduce. I mean, I think both of them will start. It's just going forward, their starting positions are in jeopardy, in my opinion. Sarr or Gallagher? Definitely Sarr, even if it's for a hit. Hey Dylan, what do you think? Jimenez to Joshua King and Veltman to Alonso. Good transfers, and once again, Joshua King is actually getting a lot of love in the FPL community right now, so I think that's a decent transfer. Varane out for Rudiger. I was just wondering because Varane has not been getting a lot of points. Chelsea have a much better defence than Manchester United. The only United defender I would consider right now is Luke Shaw because of the attacking potential, but yeah, I think Rudiger is a sensible pick. You could always wait another week if you can, because Varane has a good fixture against Aston Villa. But yeah, I mean, I think Rudiger is just the better option. Say Maximan as a punt for the next few game weeks, probably going to wildcard in game week 7 or 8. That looks pretty fair to me. Creswell or Soufal? I think Soufal, but there's not much in it, and Creswell is still capable of doing well. Of course, last season he was exceptional. Haven't seen that too much so far this season. Is Salah going for the international break in the coming game weeks? That's a good question. I think he will be, but we have to obviously wait until the squads are released for Egypt and all these other countries, and then we can see who's going. But I think he will be. What do you think of Rondon for this week? Free hit team? I probably would avoid him, of course. He's got a great fixture, and if you want a punt like him, then fair enough. But Demarai Gray covers Everton pretty well, in my opinion. Is Emmanuel Dennis a good forward option? I think so, at least around his price bracket, but he's not someone I would rely on for my team. I would rather have Tony, for example, or other strikers like Bamford, Antonio, Ronaldo, Lukaku, of course, and all these other options. But, he's only 5.2 million. Another thing I would say is I would prefer maybe, let's say, Demarai Gray or Ismaila Sarr in the midfield for a similar price. Antonio attacking Leeds defence, would he not be a better captain? I mean, that's a subjective thing. I think he is a good captaincy shout this week, but I just have more faith in Ronaldo, who's at home to Aston Villa, of course. Leeds defensively is the worst out of them, Brentford and Aston Villa, but still, I'm probably just going to be leaning towards Ronaldo this week. I have Greenwood, Jota, Townsend, Pukki. One of them needs to be benched. Well, that's tough. I mean, I wouldn't want to bench any of them, to be honest. Maybe Pukki, but I think he could actually score against Everton. Should I take Conor Gallagher or Said Benrahma? Oh my god. I'd probably play Benrahma, but benching Gallagher isn't really ideal either. Is Rafinha playing? I think he will play, but of course we don't know that for sure. He's touch and go, so it really just depends on how he feels on the day, but I think he will start. Is a 4-4-2 optimum now with double Chelsea, Liverpool and City defenders? Is the template shifting? In a way, there's no correct way of playing FPL, and also if you think about it, so far this season those 3 teams you mentioned are keeping a lot of clean sheets, but that could easily change, especially when Liverpool have Manchester United and Manchester City coming up. Chelsea and Man City are facing each other, so these things can change, and then maybe in a few weeks time we think maybe 3 defenders is enough, but still I think 4 is a viable option. Having Cancelo, Trent, maybe Alonso and Rudiger, I think it's a fair shout. Jota replacement if you have Sarr and Rafinha? Good question. I mean, probably Gray. But then again, I think Jota ahead of Brentford, obviously it's not an easy fixture, but I'd probably keep him for that, if possible. Then again, though, I might get rid of him for my own team. Who would you choose between Locadia and Scarlett as a third bench option? None of them really are going to offer you too much. I guess Locadia, but this doesn't really make too much of a difference. Jota or Greenwood to Sarr? That's a really good question. That's something I'm yet to figure out. I think because Jota is playing Watford in a few game weeks' time, and that's when Firmino could be out of international duty, so Jota's kind of secure to start that game. I might, edge towards keeping Jota and getting rid of Greenwood. And if you look at the underlying stats, Greenwood, very, very poor, and then Jota has very good underlying numbers. It's just he can't convert them into points at the moment. I want to captain Jimenez. Thoughts? I probably wouldn't. We need to see more from him and Wolves in order to start captaining them. Of course, you could be ahead of the curve, but personally, I'm kind of, I wouldn't say a safe manager, but I would rather, see it first to believe it, and I just wouldn't captain him at this moment in time. Is Digne to Rudiger okay this game week? I think so, of course. Don't be surprised if Dini outscores Rudiger this week. It's possible. If you have one free transfer, you could always just save and then make 2 free transfers heading into game week 7. You don't have to use it. But if you have 2 and you're not sure what to, which transfer to make, then it makes a bit more sense. Mount, a good pick. I mean, he is actually a bit of an injury doubt, so he could miss out in game week 6. But I would rather have double Chelsea defence than Lukaku. Will James start? That's a good question. I mean, this is the thing. Why would Chelsea change their backline from the performance against Spurs? I think Reece James will definitely start at least in game week 6 or 7 in one of them. And to be honest, he started in every single game against Manchester City under Thomas Tuchel. I think he might. If there is any change to the backline, I think it could be Reece James coming in. But then again, it could be Azpilicueta right wing back again. And Chelsea play more defensively than they have Thiago Silva, Rudiger, Christensen as the back three. Hi Dylan, hope you're doing good. Please rate my team. Duffy, Trent, Shaw, Gray, Greenwood, Sarr, Salah, Dennis, Antonio Ronaldo, Reguilon, Ayling, Basum on the bench. That's a good team. I would probably say in order to improve it, I mean, once again, I'm not a big fan of having Dennis. It's kind of, you're not sure when he's going to start. Or not when he's going to start. You don't know when to play him. You don't know when to bench him. He's kind of an awkward price and also just not very consistent. I would rather have Sarr, obviously. You have him. And I think that's more than enough cover for Watford. I wouldn't want to have both of them most weeks. I think Reguilon is also another one you could maybe change and improve on. Obviously, in a few game weeks' time, you can move Shaw to a Chelsea or City defender. Other than that, obviously, it's a really good team. Greenwood's another one to keep an eye on. You could maybe move him on, but the rest is fine. Is Rafinha going to play this game week? I think so, but once again, he's touch and go. We don't know that for sure. Jota or Torres to Sarr? I probably would get rid of Torres and keep Jota. Hi Dylan, Sanchez or Tony this week? Sanchez or Tony? Davinson Sanchez. Oof, I'd probably go with Tony. Could the double Chelsea wingbacks be an option with Livermento's easy fixtures matching? Yeah, I think so. What I probably would do with Chelsea is get Alonso and Rudiger, I think, if possible. I think that's the best duo you can go for. But with Alonso, I expect him to not start every single game from now on, especially with the fixture run that's coming up. So Maximan over Tony or keep Tony? This is the thing. I think for the next few game weeks, Maximan will outscore him, but long term, Tony's a better asset. Start Tierney or Duffy? I would start Duffy. Gray or Barnes? Who to bench? I would probably start Gray. I wouldn't be benching him ahead of Norwich. Hey mate, hope you're good. I have 4 injury doubts this week. Rafinha I think will play. Bamford out. Brownhill and Ayling. Wanted the role to get 2 Chelsea next week, but may take out Bamford. Probably wildcard game week 8. Yeah, I mean, I probably would do something similar in your situation, to be honest. Yeah, no, don't spam the chat, please. Otherwise, you won't be read out. My team: Begovic, Shaw, Duffy, White, Cody, Gray, Sarr, Salah, Jota, Ronaldo, Antonio, Lukaku. What do you think of my team for this week? Looks really good. Obviously, Lukaku against Manchester City isn't ideal, but he can still do well. And Begovic is really good for this week. Shaw, Duffy, White, Cody. I probably would start Cody over White. But then again, Arsenal could maybe keep things tight at the back once again. That's 3 clean sheets in a row if you count the Carabao Cup game over midweek. And yeah, that midfield is looking really solid, to be honest. It's one of the best midfields you can get this week. And Antonio, Ronaldo, Lukaku is a good front line. So yeah, that's, I'm not going to say that's a weak team by any stretch of the imagination. Hey Dylan, Greenwood to Sarr. It's something I'm considering, and I think even if Greenwood does do well against Villa, which he could do, I think Sarr could match him and then maybe outperforming in game week 7. So I think it is worth it. And Greenwood is going to maybe be in and out of the team from now on, especially when Rashford comes back. Mount is out injured this week, exactly, and also either way, I don't really like him too much as an FPL asset. I think he's going to be better this season and get more assists because last season he was just very unlucky, but I just prefer the Chelsea defenders. Save a transfer or worth doing Bamford to Jimenez? I probably would save the transfer if possible. If you have enough cover, I'd probably save the transfer. Jimenez is a good option, but if Bamford's back by, let's say, game week 7, then I would rather have him than Jimenez. Antonio to captain, fair enough. I probably won't be going there. Best defender pick from Man City, Cancelo at this moment in time. The fact he has the attacking potential, he can get bonus points, and he's fairly nailed, I'd go for him. Get rid of Jimenez for Antonio? I probably would. Even though I think Jimenez will do well, and he's got good fixtures, I probably would get Antonio in. Mount replacement for a -4? Once again, I'd probably say Sarr if you don't have him already, and if not, obviously Rafinha would be the ideal one, long term, but he might not even play this week. I think he will, but he might not. And yeah, Demarai Gray is another one, but I'd probably say Sarr if you don't have him. Gonna captain Antonio. What do you think? I think he's a good option. Despite the fact he's never scored against Leeds, I think he is a good option. And in terms of the fixture, you compare that to Brentford for Salah and Aston Villa for Ronaldo, I think it's a far better fixture, so I can see why. Who to bring in for Dennis? 1.7 million in the bank. Maybe Saint-Maximin in that case. Or Armstrong in preparation for Southampton's very good fixtures. Although it might be an awkward time to bring him in because he does face Chelsea next week. But I'd probably look at one of those two. And then around game week 10, Ivan Toney is definitely one to look out for. Up until game week 12 probably. Who should I captain? Ronaldo, Salah or Antonio? I mean, any of them are good options in my opinion. I'm going with Ronaldo, so that's what I'm going with. It's ultimately up to you. If you're looking for the fixture and you want to target it, then go for Antonio. Leeds are literally decimated at the back, and even across the whole team. They're playing midfielders in defence, and it's just all over the place, really. So Antonio could finally score against them. Salah is always good, so despite the fact that Brentford have a very good defence, and only Manchester City have conceded fewer big chances, I just think that Salah is a great option. And Ronaldo at home against Aston Villa, who have been good this season, but I just think Ronaldo, he's just been in such fine scoring form. He's having so many shots. He's getting into great positions. And yeah, if United score, most likely he'll be involved. When will you make your final transfers? Either tonight or tomorrow morning. I want to kind of just leave it. There's no kind of reason to rush the transfers. I already missed the kind of price rises for Rudiger and Alonso. And I think maybe Ismaila Sarr, he might be going up tonight. I'm not too sure. I haven't really checked the price rises, but yeah, I'm not really too bothered by them. That's why I'll probably just make them after this stream. Gallagher in place of Jota. He's a good choice, especially from game week 9, 10 onwards, but I'd probably keep Jota. Dyer to Livramento long term. Southampton looks strong. Armstrong to come in soon. I probably would, to be honest. I think you save a lot of money there and it allows you to invest elsewhere, so I'd do that, Chris. Who to bench between Marçal, Livramento and White? I'd probably bench White. Who would you start? Duffy, Livramento or Rudiger as Man City? Good question. I would definitely start Duffy. Then it's between Livramento or Rudiger. They could both get clean sheets, to be honest. That's tough. I mean, I'd probably go Livramento, but I think Rudiger and Chelsea could keep a clean sheet against City. I've got Ronaldo captain, Vardy and Antonio as my strikers in a free hit team. Does anyone else stand out for this game week other than those three? I did make a preview video where I show the best free hit team at the end, so you can check that out and see, what's different from your team, JR. But yeah, I think those three are fine. You have Vardy, who's a great captaincy shout against Burnley, Ronaldo, of course, and Antonio. I think that's pretty much the best you can get this week. Please rate my team: Trent, Duffy, Rudiger, Livramento, Marçal, Jota, Greenwood, Salah, Benrahma, Sarr, Ronaldo, Antonio. Really good team. I'm not sure your other kind of bench options, like for example up front, you probably have a 4.5 million, and I don't know who your goalkeepers are, but that's a good team. In terms of improving it, yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's good. Jota and Greenwood are a bit of a concern going forward, and maybe you could move Greenwood on to Gray, for example, or maybe find more money to upgrade your 4.5 million striker, but that's fine, to be honest. Hi Dylan, what's up, mate? I've got Rafinha, who's doubtful, first sub. White. I have one free transfer. I want to roll to get Chelsea defender and Lukaku in game week 7. I probably would do the same in your situation. I'd probably roll because Rafinha could still play this game week, and he's someone you want to keep long term. Would you swap Jota or Greenwood for Benrahma or Sarr? I probably would get rid of Greenwood for Sarr. That's what I think at the moment, but then again, Greenwood can do well against Aston Villa and Everton, so if you do make that transfer, it could easily backfire. Same with getting rid of Jota ahead of Brentford. What Man City player would you put? Cancelo for sure, and if not Diaz, but Cancelo would be my first pick. Should I keep James or get Rudiger in for him when the fixtures turn? I would keep James because I think he's going to play more games from now on. One Chelsea defender to buy, I think Rudiger. If you want someone nailed, and this is something I've said from weeks ago before his goal against Spurs, I'd say Rudiger. But if you want a bit more attacking potential, someone who doesn't come on for 1 point as often, then maybe Marcos Alonso. And Christensen's a really good one if you want someone really cheap. Reece James is obviously a very good option too, but those would be probably my top 3 at the moment. Bamford to Antonio for a -4. I probably would if you don't have enough defensive cover or just cover in general. Otherwise, you could just hold and have someone else play this week. Play my wildcard next week. Do you think Alonso is a good pick in defence? Yeah, definitely he is. The problem with him is I think Chua will come in at some point, and it's just a matter of time. That's the way I see it. I could be completely wrong, and I've been saying this since game week 1, and Alonso has continued to start. Safe transfer or replace Ferran with Sarr? I would get Sarr in for Ferran Torres. Chelsea resting Kovacic this week for the upcoming fixtures to come. Yeah, I mean, Kovacic is a decent option, at least so far this season, but I just don't expect him to continue that. Similar to Decore a few weeks ago, although Kovacic is probably going to outscore him this year. But yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the defenders and Lukaku. Sanchez or Ramsdale this week? Oh, I'd go for Sanchez. Bamford injured. Should I take a hit this week and sub in MacArthur? Also, which two out of these, Livramento, Marcel, Duffy? I would start Duffy and possibly Livramento, but I don't know. Marcel has more attacking potential, arguably, and it depends what you think is going to happen in that game between Southampton and Wolves. Alonso or Reece or Rudiger? I think Rudiger first, just in terms of who's the safest. Alonso second, Reece James third. Probability of Lukaku scoring against Man City? I wouldn't say it's likely, but if Chelsea do score, he is the most likely to do so. I wouldn't say he's that likely, though. Hi Dylan, have you already answered my question? I have one free transfer. Should I get rid of Tony? Who for? Say Maximan or Maupai? Or should I save the transfer? If you were to get rid of him and you want a short-term punt, especially before a wild card, I'd go for say Maximan. But long-term, Tony's better than both of them in my opinion. So if you have enough cover, then you could always just keep Tony, play someone else, and then have Tony in for Game Week 10 for those great fixtures. But if you need someone else, then yeah, you could maybe just get some Maximan. Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much for your comment. Greenwood or Rafinha to Benrahma? This is the thing. Obviously, Rafinha, he is an injury doubt, but I still think he's going to play, so I probably would get rid of Greenwood, but that's very risky. Both of them could actually, backfire, and if possible, maybe just wait for tonight or tomorrow. Maybe we'll get some leaks or something, but that's a bit unlikely to be fair. But yeah, at this moment in time, I would say get rid of Greenwood. I would rather have Rafinha long term. Think it's worth giving Bamford 1 to 2 weeks time and the price drops, or bring in Maximan instead for the next 5 to 6 game weeks? This is the thing, obviously we don't know how long Bamford's going to be out for. If it's only this week, then I would keep Bamford, but obviously we don't know that. So look, if you don't have enough cover, definitely just get say Maximan in, and you can always bring Bamford back at some point. Have Torres and Bamford, what should I do? If you have 2 free transfers, I'd probably do Torres to Sarr if you don't have him already, and maybe Bamford to say Maximan. But there's also Pukki who could do well in the next few game weeks, Chris Wood, and a few others. Yeah, DJ, cool, I answered your question. And yeah, Marco, I read out your question too, or your comment. I'm going Soufal, Dunk, and Trent in defence. Can't really upgrade at the moment. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Dunk isn't really ideal in my opinion, and one of those, Soufal or Dunk, you could maybe move on to Christensen. I think that will be fine. Thoughts on Smith Rowe for the upcoming game weeks? I think he's a decent choice, but once again, I prefer Gray, Gallagher, and a few others around that price, even Sarr, just for a bit more. But Smith Rowe is probably one of the better options around that price bracket. And also Mbeumo, he's another one I probably prefer. When to transfer out Jota? I probably would transfer him out either ahead of the Manchester City game or after they've played Watford, so ahead of the Manchester United game in a few game weeks' time. Alonso or Rudiger? I prefer Rudiger. If you just want someone nailed, then I'd go for him. My team, Trent, Shaw, Duffy, Salah, Jota, Greenwood, Gray, Antonio, Ronaldo, Richarlison. I need to transfer out Richarlison. Should I get Maximan? I probably would. Around that price bracket, I probably would go for him. I think it makes sense, and you also save a bit of money there. Which three should I play in defence? Rudiger, Livramento, Duffy, Trent, Marcel. Definitely Trent. I'd play Duffy, and I'd probably play Livramento. But, I mean, benching Rudiger and Marcel wouldn't sit right with me, if I'm being honest. 140 watching now, only 42 likes. Please give Dylan a thumbs up. Thank you very much, mate, for the shout out as always. Antonio or Salah captain? I would probably go for Salah, but I mean, they're both good options, to be honest. Antonio is a good one. Thoughts on Kovacic? Plus, I told you everyone was sleeping on Pukki. Thank you very much to Ross for the super chat. Obviously, you didn't have to, but much appreciated. Look, a few people have actually been mentioning Kovacic in this chat, and he has been a good choice so far this season. I just don't expect him to continue it long term, but this is the thing. Obviously, he can be good, especially around his price. He's very cheap, but I still prefer those Chelsea defenders. I think Chelsea will keep a lot of clean sheets more often than not than when Kovacic will get an attack and return. So I think Rudiger, Alonso, Christensen, I would rather have them as part of the Chelsea triple up than Kovacic. And of course, you want Lukaku probably up front. So that would be my opinion on that. And yeah, Pukki is, he scored against Watford, much to my dismay. I had Foster playing that week, but yeah, Pukki is a good choice for the next few game weeks. He's not someone I'm kind of too pleased about or someone I'd be too, excited to bring in, but maybe he will do well over the next few weeks. Thank you very much for the super chat once again. Thoughts about Ferran Torres? I still think he's a great option long term. So if you look at the fixtures from game week 8 onwards for City, he is a good choice. The problem I have with Ferran Torres is the next 2 fixtures, he might not even start in one of them, and the Champions League coming in, that is where, it just kind of blows things wide open. So Ferran Torres was playing every single game, and now all of a sudden he got benched against Southampton, and it could be more of a common occurrence from now on. Also, De Bruyne and Foden coming back into the mix. There's so many options that you can go for. So, yeah, with Ferran Torres, if I had him, I would be getting rid of him, to be honest, despite the fact that I think maybe a few weeks down the line, he could be a good option again. Should I keep my favourite player, say Maximan? If you have him, I wouldn't be getting rid of him, to be honest, so I would keep him. -4 Rafinha to Sarr, or risk him playing. Probably want Rafinha long term. Sissoko or Duffy on the bench if Rafinha doesn't play. Duffy's a very good option to have off the bench, so to be honest, I wouldn't take the hit. Despite the fact that Sarr will probably outscore Rafinha this week no matter what, I probably would just avoid the hit, and you have Duffy coming in anyway. Jimenez, good option once again, and don't be too put off by his lack of goal output so far this season. But yeah, once again, I think there might be other alternatives, so you don't have to have him. If you have him already, maybe give him a week or 2 more at least. But yeah, I wouldn't be bringing him in at this moment in time. I have Salah, Ronaldo and Antonio. Who should I make captain? I'm going for Ronaldo personally, so that's just my opinion. I've already given my thoughts on all of them and why I'm going for Ronaldo. But Antonio, in terms of the fixture, if you want to target the fixture, go for Antonio. But Salah, probably the most reliable captain, and he's also a midfielder. So with Ronaldo and Antonio, let's say, for example, Salah scores. Antonio or Ronaldo would have to score a brace, really, to kind of outscore Salah. That's what I would say. But yeah, I think Ronaldo, I'm the most confident in him getting a brace or a hat-trick this week, despite Villa being decent. Salah, Ronaldo's captain, once again, I'd probably go for Ronaldo, but there's no right or wrong answer. Salah and Antonio are good options. I may change my mind after the stream, of course, but for the whole week I've had it on Ronaldo, and I might stick it on him, to be honest. Game week 7, CR7 to Lukaku, Shaw to Rudiger. Now, should I go for a third Chelsea defender or Kovacic? I'd go for a third Chelsea defender. Yeah, or a second Chelsea defender in your case, and have Lukaku. So that's what I would do. Was about to transfer Ings to say Maximan, but Gundogan is injured. What should I do? Yeah, Gundogan could miss out this weekend. I'm not too sure about the repercussions for Champions League next week. I have him in my UCL fantasy team. Yeah, that's the thing. It's a bit of a tricky situation. Yeah, I'll probably get rid of Gundogan instead and maybe keep Ings for another game week or 2. I mean, Villa have been improving offensively, actually, and even just as an overall team with Watkins coming in. And Ings, yeah, I'm not really a big fan of him at the moment, but yeah, I probably would maybe get rid of Gundogan. If you don't have Sarr, definitely do Gundogan to Sarr, in my opinion. I feel Wolves won't be keeping a clean sheet against Southampton. Maybe I would start White over Cody. What do you think? Possibly. It's just that I think Spurs will score against Arsenal. And I can see Kane scoring his first goal of the season. But I agree, I'm not that confident in Wolves. And if I do make my 2 free transfers and I get maybe Sarr in and possibly Rudiger or a Chelsea defender, I'd probably start them over Cody, to be honest. Hello Dylan, do you think I should take a hit to get Bamford out or subbing Livramento in? I already have Ronaldo and Antonio. What do you think? Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably just sub Livramento in. Obviously, it's a difficult one because if it turns out that Bamford's out for another week or 2, then it might not be the correct decision in hindsight. But at this moment in time, obviously, assuming Bamford's back soon, I think the smart play would be just keeping him and having Livramento subbed on. Salah, yeah, I've answered that. Once again, yeah, at this moment in time, I've got Ronaldo captain, so that's what I'm going with. I'm not going to, say you should captain Antonio or Salah instead of him. But they're all good options, just take your pick there, go with your gut, and just back them, obviously. There's different reasons to go for each one. Salah's the midfielder. He can get the extra point for the goal and the clean sheet. Antonio has the best fixture, and I just think Ronaldo, in my opinion, is the most likely to score, and that's what the bookies say as well, and also the most likely to get any sort of return this week. Thoughts about Saka in the upcoming game weeks? Thank you, Vegard, for your question. Honestly, look, Saka, he got an assist against Burnley by winning the free kick for Odegaard's great set piece, but he's just not someone I'd consider because around a similar price you can get Rafinha when he's fit. He should be, by the way, this week in my opinion, and also Sarr. Then you have Gray too, who's probably a bit more consistent in terms of goals. So with Saka, yeah, he has some good fixtures up until game week 20, but he's just not someone I'd probably go for. And also up front, around 6.5, you can go for Armstrong, Tony, and say Maximan, so I just probably wouldn't go for him. Thinking of Dennis, King, Saint-Maximin and maybe Wood for Norwich, but not convinced. If I'm to wildcard, I think it's best to go for Watford, like the 2 fixtures, and I go King as of now. What do you think? Yeah, I think Saint-Maximin would probably be my favourite out of those you mentioned, but King's another one. He's an interesting one, and quite a few people have actually mentioned him, Dr. Swan too, and he could be an interesting choice, but Saint-Maximin's probably my pick of the bunch there. Sarr over Greenwood for permanent. I think it's a good move. It could backfire with Greenwood scoring in this game week and against Everton in game week 7, but it's still a good move in my opinion. While the chances Traore exploits Southampton this week, I think he could have a very good game, but will he score an assist? I mean, that's another question entirely, to be honest. So I think he can have a great game against Southampton, but I'm not sure if he's going to convert that into the points you need. Gallagher or Sarr long term? If you're looking at it from a purely fixtures point of view, I would say Gallagher, but Sarr, I'd have a bit more faith in him in terms of end product. Bamford to Saint-Maximin for a hit. I used my transfer for Torres to Sarr already. I have Ronaldo and Antonio. So if you have no one else to cover really that you're confident in for game week 6, then I would take the hit and get in Saint-Maximin. But if, for example, you have Duffy on your bench or someone who could cover, Livramento even, I'd probably just avoid the hit and have them come on. Do I keep Torres for this game week if he starts using wildcard game week 8? I probably would get rid of him for Sarr if you don't have him already. Of course, there's not too many options, but another one you could go for is Gray. Even if he has Man United next week, I think he's going to outscore, or at least he's more likely to get a good score across the next 2 game weeks than Ferran Torres. Thank you, Chamboy. Thank you very much for joining in, mate. What do you think about long-term? Transfer out Lukaku and get in Antonio and to have money for defenders? I probably wouldn't, because in a few game weeks' time, Lukaku is probably the best captaincy choice in the game against Norwich, and he's got a lot of fixtures like that up until game week 12, 13. So I would probably keep Lukaku, obviously. If you don't have Antonio, you really want to get him in, and then you can bolster the rest of your squad. But honestly, I probably wouldn't do that. So Maximin, Jimenez or Malpai? Not going to lie, I'm leaning towards Malpai. Fair enough. I mean, so far this season, he has been the best out of the 3. And to be fair, Saint-Maximin's also been pretty decent, but yeah, honestly, I'd still prefer Saint-Maximin over those 3 at this moment in time. At least looking at the next 2 free fixtures. If you look at the fixtures up until game week 14, Jimenez definitely is the pick of the bunch, but he just hasn't been showing enough. So at this moment in time, I'd probably say Saint-Maximin. They're all good picks though, and any of them could easily do well in game week 6 or even any of the other preceding game weeks. I have 8.5 million for a striker. Who is the best option for this week? Because I'm going to wildcard game week 7. Already got Antonio. Good question. I probably would be going ahead because Bamford's injured, Calvert-Lewin as well. They would be obviously my 2 top picks. I'd probably be looking cheaper. So Jimenez, Saint-Maximin or Malpai, as stated before. And if you want someone really long term, obviously I'd definitely say Armstrong is one to consider. But because you're wildcarding in game week 7, I just think you want to probably target the next few fixtures, if anything. And because of that, probably Saint-Maximin is my pick. Alonso or Cancelo long term. I think because Cancelo's probably a bit more nailed long term, I'd probably go for him, but both are great options, and at this moment in time, Alonso is the best defender in the game along with Trent. Gray or Sarr for game week 6 only? Now that's a tough one because Newcastle and Norwich are the 2 worst defences so far this season. Both of them could easily do well, so that's a tough one. And literally go with either one of them and hopefully luck is on your side. Obviously both of them could produce, but there is the chance that one of them blanks. I probably just prefer Sarr anyway. I have a bit more confidence in him, but Norwich is just such a good fixture. Best Chelsea defenders, in my opinion, Rudiger, because he's nailed. He's got a bit of attacking threat. He can get some bonus points. And in terms of, whenever everyone starts, Alonso and James are the best. They're the most explosive. But Rudiger just offers that security. He's also a bit cheaper. So, look, if you want 2 Chelsea defenders, my preference would be Rudiger and Alonso. And if not, go for Christensen, who's a bit cheaper, but he's either going to play or not play at all, which is ideal, especially if you have defensive cover. Tomiyasu over Cody. Looking up until game week 20, I think is probably a better pick. And Tomiyasu offers a bit more attacking threat too. Gray over Jota. Yeah, I mean, this game week specifically, I think Gray is a better option, but I'm not too sure going forward. I move Rudiger to my bench and put in Marçal. Should I keep Rudiger instead? I just feel like City will definitely score. Yeah, I can see why you think that, to be honest. And look, Chelsea can easily keep a clean sheet too. I mean, that's a tough game to call. It could be a very kind of close game where there's not much in it and not many goals. So it could go either way. Sanchez or Lloris? I would start Sanchez. Big game on Sunday. Not sure how confident you are, but it's nice to get 3 wins in a row, even if it's not against the best teams. First North London derby at home with a crowd for a while. Good result, and we go above them. Come on, you Gunners. Yeah, I mean, I'm still... There's something in the back of my mind which kind of, screams to me, I don't know, there could be something off that game. Let's wait and see. Arsenal are such an inconsistent team, and they struggle a lot to score goals, so I still have my concerns. They haven't really been looking too convincing in any of those games that I've seen. They've obviously had chances. They could have won by more goals. Let's wait and see. If Arsenal's finishing is on point and they defend well, they could easily win the game. Spurs have been poor. In terms of XG, they are 19th in the league, which is insane. And Leicester, I think, are bottom as well. But yeah, I think Spurs still have a lot of quality up front and they could easily cause damage. I expect Kane to score. So hopefully Arsenal's attack is firing. Christensen for 5 million. Yeah, once again, I think he's one of the best Chelsea options. So he is also... Probably I'd prefer him over Soufal and all the others around his price. Impact on Cavani's availability on Ronaldo for tomorrow. I still think Ronaldo will start. And he'll be fine. He was rested in the Carabao Cup. And yeah, he should start. Don't worry about that. Hey Dylan, love your content. If you are ranked 100k like me and got Bamford, but not Antonio, would you get him in or roll the transfer and get in Semedo Livramento from the bench? Got no Chelsea players. Good question. Yeah, I probably would get Antonio in for Bamford. I'm just trying to think of how I would play it in that situation. I would get Antonio in probably, despite obviously being tempted by saving the transfer and then getting the Chelsea defenders next week. Last chance... Whoa, Jesus, another voice crack. Last chance for Jota, potentially. If not, I'll give him the Watford game after game week 7. And then, yeah, in game week 8, if he doesn't perform, then probably ahead of the Man United game, I would get rid of him. I'm an idiot because I transferred out Benrahma for Rafinha and I lost 0.3 million. Yeah, but these things can happen, and obviously Rafinha actually did well. Wait, I'm assuming you did this before the United game. If you did, then that's a really lucky goal by Benrahma, and it's not going to happen very often. And Rafinha, I think long term is still a better pick than Benrahma. Dylan, I would like to get 2 Chelsea players in next week, but if I swap Bamford to Antonio, then I would need to take a hit to get 2 Chelsea players in. Well, this is the thing. Obviously, you want to get those Chelsea defenders and players as soon as possible, but you don't have to take the hit. So you can get Antonio now, and then next week make another free transfer, and you don't have to have 2 or 3 Chelsea players straight away. I don't think the hit will always pay off. It might not. So I think you can always just get Antonio in now, and then next week get a Chelsea defender. I have Mount and Bamford injured. I want to take out Mount because I think he might face a price drop soon. Who do I replace him with? Yeah, DJ Cool. Yeah, I did actually answer your question before, and if you don't have Sarr, I'd probably get him. And if you want a short-term punt, Gray's another one. Greenwood, Jota and Torres at the beginning of the season were looking like the 3 best midfielders, but just because of rotation risk, fixtures as well, like Torres, for example, I'm not too keen on them. And also Greenwood, I just don't think he's as appealing of an asset now with Ronaldo coming in. So I'd go for Sarr or Gray, and long term, obviously, assuming Rafinha is fit, then yeah, he's definitely kind of the pick of the bunch long term. But yeah, Sarr or Gray are pretty fine. Benrahma's also a good option, but I'd probably be looking at Sarr, if anything. What about Son in the next few weeks? Once again, Spurs 19th for XG. They're just not looking promising at the moment. They can do well. They've got some good fixtures coming up. And Son is very reliable and very explosive. But I probably think there's better value elsewhere. Just having Salah in the midfield and maybe just some cheaper midfielders. Trent Alexander-Arnold at the back and these City and Chelsea defenders. Also Antonio and then Ronaldo, Lukaku up front. I just don't see a spot for Son right now. I need to see more from Spurs before kind of investing in one of their attacking assets. Captain Jota? Definitely not. I just don't think he's shown enough for that. Lukaku, Ronaldo for the next 2. I think Ronaldo over the next 2 game weeks, but long term, Lukaku is a better pick. Will Rafinha play? I think he will, but he is touch and go, so there is a chance that he doesn't play or doesn't start at least, so just bear that in mind. That's just my opinion there. Sanchez or Foster? At this moment in time, I'm going for Sanchez, but I'm really tempted because of the injuries to Newcastle, and I think Foster could maybe keep a clean sheet. Cancelo and Alonso or Rudiger and Alonso? That's a tough one. I think probably Rudiger and Alonso, but I really like Cancelo, to be honest. Edouard or Joshua King? Long term, I do prefer Edouard, but Joshua King for the next few game weeks at least is probably the better choice. Best midfielders for 5.9 million? Probably Gallagher or Gray. So if you're looking for the next few game weeks, especially up until game week 12, I would say Gray. And he's got a great fixture now, obviously, against Norwich. But if you're looking really long term up until game week 15-20, then I'd argue that Gallagher is the better one. Jota or Dennis? I prefer Jota. Hi Dylan, is it worth to take a -4 to bring in Antonio and Sissoko for Torres and Scarlett? I think it could be. Obviously, it's a bit risky, but looking at the next 2 fixtures as a whole, I think it could be worth it. And even long term, Antonio's probably a better asset than Torres. So I think, yes, obviously, if you are kind of prepared to take the hit, I'd go ahead. Tony or Livramento from the bench, I would rather play Livramento. But Tony is still capable of scoring against Liverpool, and same with Brentford and Buemo and all these other options. Trent captain, bad idea? It's not a bad idea, but I think Brentford could potentially score a goal. And I think this is a week for Ronaldo, Antonio or Salah. That's just my personal opinion, so I probably would avoid that. Brentford look dangerous. I would not risk it personally. Yeah, I agree, to be honest. Duffy, Creswell, Soufal, Van Dijk, Tierney. Which 3 should I pick this week? Good question. Oh, you got double West Ham defence. Yeah, I mean, I can see why. They've also got attacking potential against Leeds. They could do well. I would start Van Dijk, either Creswell or Soufal. Take your pick there, and Duffy. If you have Sanchez already, then you could arguably go for double West Ham defence in that game, but Leeds could still score. Despite missing so many players, they're decent offensively. Rate my team: Foster, Sanchez, Rudiger, Livramento, Semedo, Duffy, Trent, Salah, Rafinha, Sarr, Jota, Bissouma, Antonio, Ronaldo, Jimenez. Very good team, Once again, some of these players like Jimenez haven't been doing too well now, but they can do in the future. And look, there are probably ways to improve it, of course. I think Rafinha is a touch and go. He's a bit of a doubt, but I expect him to start. Salah, of course, is fine. Sarr's a great option this week. Jota, obviously, if he still doesn't perform in the next few weeks, you can get rid of him, but I would keep him ahead of this fixture. You've already got Rudiger. I think the kind of, the thing you could do potentially is maybe, if you have enough money, move Semedo on to either another Chelsea defender, or you can go to Cancelo, but I'm not sure if you have enough money to do that, really. But yeah, Duffy and Livramento, that's fine, to be honest, at this moment in time, offering great value. And that's a good team overall. Do you think Jota will play? If so, will he play the full 90? I think he will play, but I'm not sure about the full 90, especially with Firmino coming back. Thanks for the answer, really appreciate it. And as I said before, I really love your content, both live streams and videos. Give this guy a follow and like, guys. Thank you very much. Zodiac DK, Zodiac, what name? Thank you very much, and hope to see you in future streams and videos too. Thank you very much, mate. Should I bring in, say, Maximan? Depends on your situation. If you have Bamford and you don't have anyone else to cover, then I would bring in, say, Maximan. Otherwise, there's no real rush, in my opinion, to get him in. Hi, Dylan. What are the best possible midfielders for under 6 million? And also, is Havertz a good one for next week? I think Havertz is a good option for some of these game weeks, but I'm looking at it long term, and I would rather have 2 Chelsea defenders and Lukaku. So, yeah, Havertz is going to be in and out of that team, and he's not always going to start. But with Rudiger, for example, Azpilicueta and Lukaku, you have 3 players who are going to start pretty much every single game and probably outscore Havertz. So I would rather go for them, and maybe even Alonso. Obviously, the rotation is going to come into play, in my opinion, but still, I think he would be also better than Havertz. Let me call Jurgen Klopp and I'll tell you. Sorry, Vardy and Townsend in, DCL, Greenwood out. Good or bad? I have Brownhill and Benrahma. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Greenwood could do well this week, so that might go against you, but that's a good set of transfers, in my opinion, especially Vardy. Bamford replacement, I have Ronaldo and Antonio. I'd be looking probably cheaper. So Jimenez is still a good option. There's, say, Maximan, and even Pookie, Armstrong, Wood. They're all, decent. They can do well. Long-term, Tony's probably like my favourite pick. But with those fixtures coming up, I'd probably go for, say, Maximan. If you want someone short-term, definitely go for him. And obviously, as a lot of people mentioned earlier, Joshua King is also someone to consider. But if you already have Sarr, I probably wouldn't be doubling up on their attack. What about Captain Antonio? I think if you look at the fixture, he has the best fixture. So there's nothing wrong with it. Despite his poor record against Leeds, I think he's a good choice this week. I'm just going for Ronaldo personally. It doesn't mean that Antonio is bad. 50% chance for Rafinha to play. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, though, with Rafinha. I mean, I think he's going to play, but he's touch and go. Say Max for Bamford or Jimenez. It's hard. I need help. Yeah, I would probably, get rid of Bamford because he's an injury doubt. Well, he's going to miss out in Game Week 6. And Jimenez can do well in the next few weeks. I swap Rafinha with Sarr next week. I will use wildcard and buy Rafinha back and go Lukaku plus double Chelsea defence. That looks like a solid strategy, to be honest. Obviously, Rafinha long-term is a good pick, but you're going to wildcard soon, so it's fine. Dylan, Everton midfielders, Townsend, Gray and Doucouré. Which one is the best? In my opinion, is still Gray. Doucouré obviously was doing really well at the beginning, and Townsend scored a screamer a few weeks ago, but I'd still go for Gray out of those 3. I just don't expect him to continue it long term, but I would prefer him. What was your transfer this game week? I haven't made any yet. I've got 2 free transfers available and I've got a few options. So I want to do Ayling to a Chelsea defender if possible, and either do Jota or Greenwood to Sarr, or if not, Tony to a 4.5 million striker like Scarlett or Richardson, and then use that money to upgrade Ayling. So those are the 2 options I'm kind of thinking about at the moment. As you can see on screen, I'm not entirely sure at this moment in time. So once again, let me know what you guys think. And at this moment in time, I'm not too sure. Obviously, I know what I want to do with Ayling, but with the other one, I don't know if I want to, keep my 4 midfielders, or if I want to go 5 in midfield. I don't know what I want to do at this moment in time. If I want to get rid of Tony or keep him. Long term, I would want to have Tony, but for the next few fixtures, up until game week 10, that's when the fixtures turn again for Brentford. I'm just not too sure about him. Video just leaked of Rafinha getting off Leeds team bus in London. Yeah, these things are going to happen. It's typical, whenever I'm doing a stream or something, there's quite, sometimes there's kind of news and stuff. Yeah, in my opinion, Rafinha will play, but you never know. He could come off the bench. That is a possibility. Lukaku captain, I wouldn't do that against Manchester City, because even if he does score, I just don't see his ceiling being as high as Salah, Antonio, Ronaldo, so I wouldn't do that. Alonso, I'd say Maximan for a -4. Don't have bench to cover for the injury. I think long-term Alonso, obviously the kind of big caveat to that is if Chilwell comes in and he takes his spot. Say Maximan might be better for the next 2 fixtures, but long-term Alonso's better. Should I replace Jimenez with Antonio? I probably would. Despite Jimenez, I think he will pick up at some point. I would prefer Antonio. Son triple captain, definitely not me. I would not do that. Raya or Sanchez? I would go for Sanchez, especially this week. Which 3 out of 5 defenders would you play this week from Trent, Livramento, Duffy, Semedo, or Marçal? Trent for sure. He shouldn't be up for debate. Duffy, and I'd probably go for... Ooh, that's tough. That is really tough. I'd probably go for either Semedo or Livramento. What do you think of Pukki? I think he's got some good fixtures coming up. He can do really well. I just don't trust Norwich enough to go for him for my own team, but he is an interesting choice. Long term, I think from the cheaper strikers, Armstrong would be my favourite. Would you sell Rafinha if you had Basuma on the bench to come on if he does not play? That's a tough one. So I think Rafinha will play, and because of that, I would keep him, but it's a risk, of course. And if he doesn't, I wouldn't want to have Basuma coming on. And he's also an injury doubt, by the way, Basuma. Lukaku to Ronaldo for 1 week? Probably not, because you'd want him back the following week, or if not, game week 8. I think Ronaldo will outscore him in the next 2 game weeks, but you don't want to keep, chopping and changing between the 2. So I just wait. And you've got Lukaku already. There's no real need to change it. Alonso or Maximan? Yeah, I'd go for Alonso, mate. Is Odegaard a better option in place of Doucouré? I would rather have Odegaard, but honestly, I prefer Mbeumo. Sarr around 6.1 million, Gallagher and Gray around that, that 5.5, 6 million bracket. Force on De Bruyne. Obviously, he's always a good option, but I just think around his price, you can just get Ronaldo, Lukaku, Salah, so not for me at this moment in time. Hey, what do you think about Maupay from Bamford and -4 for Torres to Sarr? Good set of transfers, to be honest. Obviously, Maupay's another striker that I haven't really mentioned, but he's been in fine form and he's doing pretty well so far. So, yeah, I mean, he's a good choice. I think those 2 transfers could pay off. Good luck, mate. Can't wait for your UCL fantasy stream. Thank you very much. That will be on Tuesday. So thank you very much for your comment, Malik. Marco says, you think it's possible or beneficial to try and cover Bamford for a week with any of Brownhill, Doubt, Ayling, Biggish Doubt, or Simicast, and hopefully Bamford is back and have 2 free transfers for Chelsea next game week? I think Brownhill should be fine based on what I've heard from the press conferences. I think he should be fine, but he's not going to get you too many points on average. So, yeah, this could be a week where you could get rid of Bamford, and then, yeah, going into next week, you might not have 2 free transfers, but still, I probably would either... Yeah, I mean, Ayling is a really big doubt this week. He tends to not really come off. He plays every single minute. I think last season he only missed out on 20 minutes. So, yeah, I think he won't be coming in for you. And Simicast, I don't expect him to start. So, yeah, really, you're going to be relying on Brownhill. I probably would make a transfer. Would you sell Rafinha if you have Basuma? Yeah, once again, I answered that. Benrahma or start for Rafinha? I would start both of them, honestly, but I would rather start Benrahma. Force on Livramento for a long run as a backup defender. Should I bring in Livramento against Semedo? I wouldn't bring him in, but long term, I think he is one of the best options, if not the best, around his price. Him and Duffy. So take your pick there and probably stick to them as your 5th defender. Hi, mate. Anything on Simicast? Not really. I would expect Robertson to start. That's just kind of my opinion on the matter. Bamford to King, then Jota to Son next game week. Set to wildcard in game week 8. Thoughts? good transfers. I'm not a big fan of Son, in my opinion, at this moment in time. Obviously, he's a great asset over the years gone by, and he's explosive, very consistent, but he's just... I'm not too sure if I'd be going for him at this moment in time. I need to see more from Spurs before going in on him. Who's the best midfielder below 6.5 for long-term except Rafinha? That's a great question. I think if you're looking really long-term, Gallagher's a great choice. And I'd say probably still Sarr, because he's got some tough fixtures in the next 5-7 game weeks, but even beyond that, he could be a good kind of set-and-forget player. Would you play 4-3-3 with Rudiger, Diaz, Marçal, Livramento, Salah, Sarr, Greenwood, Antonio, Max, Ronaldo? Or should I Traore and sit either Marçal or Livramento? I think that's fine, to be honest. I'd probably play the 4-3-3, but obviously Traore, this could be the week where he finally does well when he's on your bench, but yeah. You playing Tony over White? Potentially, yeah. I mean, either way, I'm probably not going to be sticking with this team. I have 2 free transfers and I want to be making moves. And let's say, for example, I get in. Let's show you one of my teams. So, yeah, if I do this and I keep Tony and I get Sarr in, I would be tempted to start Cody over Tony. But I'm not too sure about that, to be honest. But yeah, it'd be Rudiger, Trent, Shaw, Cody. And it'd be Salah, Jota, Sarr, Benrahma. And yeah, it'd be Antonio and Ronaldo up front. So a 4-4-2. But yeah, I'm not too sure, to be honest. And if I were to get rid of Tony, then yeah, I mean, I'd probably... Yeah, it's a tough one, to be honest. I mean, once again, I'd probably do the 4-4-2 and play Cody and just bench White. I just don't see a clean sheet for Arsenal. It can happen, but I don't know. It's just... I expect Spurs to score and Kane to score his first of the season. Is Rodrigo Leeds worth it? Not in my opinion, especially with all the injuries Leeds have. I probably wouldn't go for him. Welcome, Matthew. Salah or Edouard? Salah, definitely. Salah or Ronaldo? Yeah, I mean, as a captain, Ronaldo this week, but overall, as an asset, long term, I'd probably say Salah. Hi Dylan, I've done a -4 for Torres and Sarr to Bamford and Antonio with effective ownership high on Ronaldo. He's my captain to hold rank 25k. Irish Villains, great content. Thank you very much, Cyril. And yeah, well, great rank, 25k. -4, Sarr and Antonio, you can't really complain about that. I probably would have made the exact same moves as you did in your situation, to be honest, so good luck with that. Thank you, Marco. Agree and appreciate all your advice, Dylan. Thanks a lot. Good luck this week. Hopefully we can get a result as well. We'll probably stick around for a bit. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing with Arsenal. I'm not too sure. I went with a 2-1 victory, but I'm not too sure, to be honest, the closer we get to the game. When Bamford is back, do you think Bruno Fernandes out for Bamford and a midfielder under 8.5 million? Also, what midfielders would be best around that price? I think that's fine. I would probably go for something similar, especially when Bamford's back, of course, and Bruno has a tough fixture run. But you could also, I'm not sure what your team structure is. I'm assuming you already have Ronaldo. But if you don't have a premium striker, I would definitely recommend getting a Lukaku up front and maybe downgrading Bruno to a really cheap midfielder. But around 8.5 million and under, I think Sarr and Rafinha would be my 2 favourites at this moment in time. And yeah, I mean, there is grey for the next few game weeks up until game week 12, but I'd probably be looking at one of those 2. And Gallagher's another one at 5.6. Jota, Greenwood and Torres, they're all good options from time to time, but at the moment, it's really difficult to kind of make a case for any of them. They all have their issues and they could be in and out of the team at any point, really. But yeah, they're all still good options. Who to bench, Sissoko or Williams? I'd probably bench Williams. Ron or Salah's captain? I would go for Ronaldo. That's what I'm currently going with, but Salah's a good choice. Do you know if I should sell Torres? I would probably sell him. If I had him with those 2 fixtures coming up, with his rotation risk, I'd probably go for someone else, especially if you don't have Sarr. Any news on whether Rafinha's going to be fit or not? Well, apparently there's a video of him getting off the bus in London ahead of the game, but I personally think he will start. He's touch and go. That's what Marcelo Bielsa said. So he's not completely nailed to start or even, be in the squad, but I think he will. Thanks, mate. Really enjoy your content. Good luck this week. Thank you, Todd West, mate. Got a feeling Jota's going to smash it this week. I think he might score. That's why I'm keeping him at this moment in time, and I'm more inclined to get rid of Greenwood, if anything. Get Alonso over Luke Shaw for the long run? Probably, yes. I wouldn't maybe make that move now, but you could do it in game week 7 or 8. And there's always, obviously, Rudiger and Christensen. What do you think about captaining Antonio? I think in terms of the fixture, Antonio has the best one, and he is a good choice. Just bear in mind, he's never scored against Leeds, but still, I think with the amount of injuries Leeds have at the back, I expect West Ham to score 2 or 3, and he's a great option, of course. And he's someone that has crossed my mind, but at this moment in time, I'm going for Ronaldo. Good stream, man. Rafinha out for Sarr until wildcard in Game Week 8 to get Rafinha back in. What do you think? That makes complete sense. And Rafinha long-term, of course, has better fixtures. So I would do something similar if I were wildcarding in Game Week 8, which I might. But I'm also considering another possibility of maybe holding it. Tony to say Maximan for a -4. I probably wouldn't do that, honestly, yeah. Townsend or Gray this week? I prefer Gray, Matto. I've just joined the chat. Best Bamford replacement. Antonio, if you don't have him already, for sure. Assuming you do have him, I'd probably be looking at either, I'd say Maupai. I'd say Jimenez is still a good choice, believe it or not. And Armstrong. If you're looking long term, I think Armstrong could be the pick of the bunch, around 6 million. And there's always a lot of choices, to be honest. And I'd go for one of them. Also, Pookie and Wood, they're good choices. But at this moment in time, I'd probably be leaning towards one of those I said at the beginning. Who to bench, Duffy or Cucurella? Good question. I mean, I wouldn't want to bench either of them. I'd probably start Duffy, but they're both good. Hi Dylan, shall I do Jota to Gray or Traore to Gray or none? Good question. I would probably do Traore to Gray and keep Jota. He played against Leeds so much time ago, I don't think it's good stats. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I'm not using that as an excuse or a reasoning behind why I'm not captaining Antonio. I made my captaincy decision, or at least I've had it on Ronaldo since the beginning of the week, before I even knew of that stat. And of course, Antonio was a completely different player back then. He would play right wing back. He wasn't really a good finisher, wasn't prolific. He is a completely different player. He's in his prime right now. And he is a good option. I mean, I already talked about it. He's got a great fixture, and Leeds have so many injuries, so go for it if you have a good feeling about it. Alonso looks surprisingly good. Yeah, it's just with him, I always have in the back of my mind, is he going to lose his spot? And it could easily happen. I mean, based on merit, he shouldn't be dropped, but it could happen in any game week, especially with other competitions coming into the mix. I have 2 free transfers. Should I swap out Rafinha for Sarr? I probably would still keep Rafinha, but if you are not sure about Rafinha starting, then just get Sarr in. Play Reguilon versus Arsenal, Marçal versus Southampton. I play Marçal. Greenwood to Gallagher this week or next week? I'd probably keep Greenwood for the time being, considering your transfer option there. Is Gray a good option for captaining? I think if you want a really big differential, then yes, he is a good option, but I would stick to Ronaldo, Antonio or Salah. Hello Dylan, double up on Brighton defence with Sanchez, already have Duffy, or go with Foster? Ooh, I'd probably go for Foster in that situation, but there's nothing wrong with getting Sanchez as well. Captain Antonio, yeah, once again, great option this week, and he would be, I wouldn't say a differential, but compared to Ronaldo and Salah, I think he would be maybe 3rd or 4th most highly captain player. A lot of people have gone off him as well, so that could be a really good choice. And once again, great fixture, and Leeds have so many injuries, so I would recommend it. If you really back Antonio and West Ham to score a lot of goals, then I'd definitely go for it. Take Tanganga out for Alonso, or wait till next week, or Rudiger instead? I'd probably take Tanganga out. Yeah, I mean, there's no rush. I mean, if you have one free transfer now, you could always wait for next week and have more flexibility with your transfers. But if not, yeah, I'd get Alonso or Rudiger in. Force on Dennis as an enabler to upgrade defence? I would just rather have a 4.5 million striker, if I'm being honest, and then use that money to upgrade the rest of your midfield and defence. Best Torres replacement, thinking of Sarr or Benrahma? I'd definitely go for Sarr at this moment in time, mate. And thank you very much for everyone who's been watching. Really appreciate it. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. And yeah, of course, once again, thank you very much for all the comments, ideas. And yeah, just bring them into the live chat. If I haven't answered something already, then feel free to post it once again, but just don't spam the chat. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Dylan_RCM. It's the same as my YouTube. And you can always send me in your teams there. And also just talk about football, UCL, fantasy, and also FPL. So thank you very much for tuning in. I'm going to go back to my team. And I haven't made any transfers yet. Obviously, like I said, let me know what you think I should do. I've got 2 free transfers. I definitely want to get a Chelsea defender despite the City game. But it's either Jota, Greenwood, or Tony making way. And if it is Tony, I'd be downgrading him to Richardson in essence. With Jota and Greenwood, I'd be getting in Ismaila Sarr, which probably looks better over the next 2 game weeks. But it's a difficult one as well. And Tony's a bit of an awkward one. I don't want to play him in some of these games coming up, like Liverpool at home. And even Cody away to Southampton. I'm just not too sure about that at this moment in time. Bowen or Benrahma? I would prefer Benrahma. Bowen is someone that I've actually tipped to do well, and he just hasn't done it, really. Play 2 this game week. Soufal, Digne or Semedo? I'd play Soufal and Digne. If I replace Bamford, I unfortunately have one to play with Ayling. Marco, I would probably... Yeah, White isn't too bad in that situation. I'd probably go for him, and if not, maybe just... Yeah, I'd probably play White out of those four options you said. Tsimikas, obviously, if he starts, he's the best one, but I just don't see him starting over Robertson. Thoughts? Raya, Van Dijk, Duffy, Marçal, Salah, Gray, Sarr, Benrahma, Ronaldo, Lukaku, Antonio. Good team. Raya obviously has some very tough fixtures coming up. If you have 2 free transfers right now, then you could arguably go off Raya and get another goalkeeper in. If you have Foster, by the way, on your bench, maybe just play him instead of Raya. That's what I would do. Yeah, the defence is fine. Obviously, I prefer Cancelo, Marcos Alonso and Trent over Van Dijk, but he's been doing really well so far. Yeah, and the rest is pretty good, to be honest. Yeah, there's not really a big issue there. Should I go Trincao to Sarr for a hit? That's tough. I mean, Trincao is one of the... I don't know how he hasn't got more attacking returns this season, but I probably would do it. Will you be sharing a final team? I will be on the community tab of YouTube and also potentially on Twitter, so follow me there and you will see my final team. I'm going to be captaining Bruno. I don't think that's a bad choice. I mentioned him in my preview. He was my 5th best captaincy choice of the week. He could even be first. He's got a good record against Aston Villa, and I think he could do well. Is Bamford out? Yes, he is out for game week 6. I don't know if he's going to be out for game week 7 or 8. We don't know that yet, but he is out for game week 6. That's confirmed by Bielsa. Dylan is the Thomas Tuchel of FPL. Thank you very much. I'll take that as a compliment. I mean, yeah, Tuchel is highly regarded right now, but yeah, I mean, I have to say though, I had my doubts about Tuchel at Chelsea. He's been doing so well. Let's see how much he can continue that. But yeah, I mean, he's been doing really well. To sell Bamford to Antonio, definitely. If you don't have Antonio and you have Bamford, I'd do that switch easily. I think he is the main man. He is the best striker you can go for, especially around that price. I suggest you hold Jota. I really believe he will score this week. Yeah, I agree, Lynn Pluto. That's a really good piece of advice. I mean, this is the thing though. I also think Greenwood over the next 2 could do really well. But then again, will he start? We're just not so sure. He's had 2 shots overall in 2 games since Ronaldo's come in. Tony, I think long term is the better hold than Greenwood. But over the next 2 game weeks, I think Greenwood is worth keeping. Then again though, if I could just get Sarr for Greenwood, keep Tony for the long term, I think I'm in a better position going into the long term, and I potentially could save the wild card and not use it in game week 8. So it's a tough one. I think you're safe with Cody this week. Best of luck, says Ali. Yeah, he might be decent this week. And Wolves' defence has always kind of bitten me in the past. Even when I got Sison at the beginning of last season, when he was doing really well, he had a few good game weeks and then just kind of fell out. So yeah, Wolves' defence is very tricky. I took out Antonio for Bamford. Should I bring him back in? I'm not a big fan of that, but obviously you've been very unlucky there, so I probably would just get Antonio back in. Tony's fixtures aren't too great, but Jota and Greenwood won't last much longer with Firmino and Rashford coming back, I think. That's a really good point. And yeah, either way, if I'm being honest, let's look at Tony's fixtures. I would probably play him or be, not too bothered by playing him against West Ham and Leicester. Liverpool and Chelsea is a different story, especially Chelsea. I wouldn't want to play him in those fixtures. He could still do well, but it's just very unlikely. And then he faces 3 very promising teams in Burnley, Norwich and Newcastle, pretty much the 3 worst teams you can go for, but it requires a lot of patience to actually get to those games. Should I play Tsimikas? I probably wouldn't this week. Last week I would have recommended it because there was an inkling of him starting over Robertson, but this week I just don't think so. I like how 90% of us have the same players. Yeah, that's true. The template is stronger than ever this year, something that we've all noticed since, I'd say, the first drafts were being made. But still, I'd say slow and steady wins the race, maybe. But at one point, if you want to win or you want to really go up to a very good rank, you're going to have a few differentials in there. Greenwood was a very good differential for me in the first few game weeks. Tony was last week for me, getting 12 points. So, those sorts of players I'm counting on to really do the business for me. But once again, one of those 2 I just mentioned could be coming out of my team. Who do you think is on penalties for Watford? I'd say the highest chance would be Sarr, but it's possible for King to take them. That's a good point, yeah. Between him, Saint-Maximin and Dennis for the Bamford replacement, if I can't hold and see with Bamford. That's a great point, Marco. I think Sarr could actually be on the penalties, and if not, probably King. There is Dennis as well, to be fair. He could be on them, but I probably would go with your picks there between Sarr and King. We just don't know yet. And over the next 2 game weeks, I still would prefer Saint-Maximin. The only thing I would kind of say against what I've been talking about is that Newcastle have so many injuries. Willock is touch and go as well, I believe, so he could be missing out. Wilson's out as well, so Saint-Maximin might have to carry that attack, and I just don't know if he's going to have enough service, and he still worries me, and Newcastle worry me in general. Of course, he's a good asset, he's a good player. Captaining Salah maybe rather than Ronaldo, I don't know. Yeah, once again, there's no right or wrong. If you have a gut feeling about someone, I would recommend it. Him, Antonio and Ronaldo, any one of them, just go for them, I think. I'm just going for Ronaldo because of the home advantage. Also, just how sharp he's been. His underlying stats have been exceptional. So that's why I'm going for him. But all of them are great choices. Maupay or St. Maximin for Bamford replacement. Considering Maupay has 3 good fixtures, then can go Maupay to DCL. On the other hand, St. Maximin is a long-term pick. Yeah, true. But then again, when Wilson comes back and he's leading the line, St. Maximin will be shifted to the wings really, or not really being the focal point of that Newcastle attack. So that would be a bit kind of worrying. Maupay's a good one. He could be someone to look out for the next few. He's a very streaky player and he tends to start the season very well, but then he has a massive dip. It happened last season as well. So just bear that in mind. I think either of them's fine. If you're looking at the next 3 and you want a wild card around Game Week 8, then go for Maupay, but St. Maximin is a good pick too. The Galactic Hobbit says, should I start Diaz this weekend against Chelsea or should I play Duffy over him? I would play Duffy over him, but if you already have Sanchez, then you could just play Diaz. But I think Chelsea will score, to be honest, so Duffy could be fine anyway. Thoughts on Greenwood not travelling? I haven't seen, I've seen someone mentioning it in the chat, but I think that kind of broke out since I was live streaming, so I haven't had a chance to check on Twitter. Any Rafinha news? Apparently he got off the bus. I'm not sure if that's true, but someone in the live chat did say that. Ahead of the game, and I think he will start, but he's touch and go. That's what Bielsa pretty much said. He said Bamford's out and a few others are, but as for Rafinha, we just don't know yet, and same with all the other kind of injury doubts they have. I think Ayling's another one. Hey Dylan, would you swap Traore for Sarr or hold the transfer team? Sanchez, Trent, Shaw, Veltman, Tsimikas, Ayling, Greenwood, Salah, Benrahma, Brownhill, Traore, Ronaldo, Antonio, Jimenez. Ooh, I would probably swap him and I'd get Sarr in. Yarang. Hi mate, how about selling Bamford for St. Maximin? I think it's a fine pick, even Maupay once again. Also Armstrong if you're looking really long term. I think any of them are fine. Chris Wood or Pookie, 2 other good options for the short term. So any of them would be fine. Any thoughts on starting Foster over Sanchez this game week? I am considering it, to be honest, because of all the injuries that Newcastle have, and I think they might struggle a bit against Watford. And Watford, they showed great defensive form last season in the Championship. They just haven't translated it into the Premier League so far. But I think Batman, he should be coming back soon. So if he's not back this game week, he'll be back the following one in Game Week 7. But I am tempted by Foster. Cristiano Ronaldo, FTP. Yeah. Would you sell Rafinha if you had Basuma to come in? I would still, Matthew Price. I answered your question before. I'm not sure why the comments aren't coming up. But yeah, I would probably keep Rafinha. I think he's going to start. If you don't back Rafinha to start this game week, then maybe you could sell him to a Sarr or someone else. But I'd keep him. What's your prediction for City versus Chelsea? As a City fan, our next 3 games are really tough, which are Chelsea, PSG and Liverpool, but I think we can win 2 and draw 1. I think Chelsea will win. I went with a 2-1. It could easily be a 1-0. Could even be a draw. But of course, City have the quality to win this game, but I just think Chelsea... Yeah, at this moment in time, they just look really strong. And with City, there are some games where they just struggle to score. So I probably would be backing Chelsea in this one. What about Begovic starting? I think he will start. Obviously, I'm not sure. Someone mentioned before that Pickford isn't flagged anymore. So let me check that. Let's see if that's true. He's probably right. I wouldn't be doubting. There's no reason for him to lie. Yeah, Pickford is now available apparently. Before he was flagged and out up until the 17th of October, which would be game week 8 after the international break. But yeah, with Begovic, maybe he won't start. And Pickford is very important to their defence. I mean, if you look at their expected goals conceded against Aston Villa, the figure was actually very good for Everton. It's just that they conceded so many goals towards the end of the game, and I think Pickford was a big miss in that game. So yeah, if Pickford is fit, or if he's available, he's definitely going to start. That's the way I see it. So yeah, obviously Begovic might not be as appealing as he once was, and Foster once again is the best 4 million option. How about playing Foster for Sanchez this week? Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's something I'm considering. I might make some changes to this team. So along with the 2 free transfers and getting a Chelsea defender and possibly Sarr, I might even put Foster in for Sanchez. It's something I actually did, I think in my deadline stream actually, ahead of Game Week 5, I put Foster in for Sanchez and it did pay off. I got 2 extra points. So maybe something else could happen again. Captain Ronaldo or Salah, and why? Either one's fine. I mean, I'm going for Ronaldo personally once again because of the home advantage. I think also Villa despite them improving recently, I think Brentford have been better defensively this season. And with Ronaldo, he is the main focal point behind Manchester United's attack. And both him and Salah are really sharp, by the way, this season. And Salah, what he offers you is the extra point for the goal and the clean sheet. But with Ronaldo, he's just in such fine form. His expected goal since coming into the league is pretty much the best. Same with shots. He's had 13 shots in 2 game weeks. And I think he's going to have another good performance here. And with Salah, he's also got Jota, Firmino potentially, and Mane who could share the goals. And I think that game could be quite tough. It could be a 1 or 2-0 to Liverpool, maybe 2-1. And with United, I back them to score 2 or 3 goals, more so than Liverpool this week. So that's why I'm going for it. There's no right or wrong answer. Both of them are great options. Same with Antonio. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Versta, thank you very much for tuning in. And I remember you from the Euros and UCL Fantasy. There is some rumours saying that Rafinha may be out for a month. Let's wait and see. Where is that from? Thank you for letting me know, though. You made any transfers yet? I haven't, mate. I'm thinking of making 2 free transfers. Either Tony to a 4.5 million striker, or Jota or Greenwood to a Sarr, and the other transfer would be Ayling to a Chelsea defender like Rudiger. Bamford has a good, Brentford have had a good defence so far. I know it's Liverpool, but can see them being strong again. CR7 for captain at home for me. I agree. Obviously, there's no right or wrong. Salah is fixture-proof. He could easily score a goal or 2, maybe get an assist, but I'm just backing Ronaldo at this moment in time. I don't know what to do. Bamford could cover him for 1-2 weeks with defenders and hope he is back ASAP, or bring in Maximan now and go with him for the next 8-9 game weeks. Leeds fixtures are just so good. If you have enough good defensive cover, I'd probably just keep Bamford. But of course, if he does miss out the next week too, then yeah, you might be kicking yourself and say, why didn't I bring in, say, Maximan or another one of those 6.5 million strikers? Yeah, it's true. Getting off the bus. Greenwood not travelling because he's playing at home. Says Sam. Yeah, I don't know why some people were saying that about Greenwood earlier. Yeah, it's probably just a little joke. Have Marcel, Duffy, Livramento, Christensen and Trent. Which free to play considering the fixtures? I would play Duffy. Definitely Trent. Trent never... Unless he's playing City away or Chelsea away, I'd play him every single game. So Trent, Duffy and either Livramento or Marcel. I'd probably go for Livramento. What should I do with Reece James? I'd keep him. You made your bed there. I would keep him. I think he's a great option. And when the fixtures turn for Chelsea, I would expect him to start the majority of those games. Should I hold Ronaldo for the Everton game and get Gray on a 1-week punt? I was going to go Ronaldo to Lukaku originally next week. I think you can hold with Lukaku. Just get him in ahead of game week 8, really. So yeah, you can keep Ronaldo for game week 7. And if you really back Gray, get him in. Of course, not a great fixture in game week 7, but in game week 6, he could do really well. Is Trent a good differential captain pick this week? Trent is always a good differential captain, unless he's facing a really tough team. But I personally would still prefer Antonio, Ronaldo, and Salah. I actually mentioned Trent as a very good captaincy shout against Palace. Of course, he ended up being ill and he missed that game. Those sorts of fixtures, though, at home, I would definitely back him. Away to Brentford's a bit trickier. And because I think Brentford are capable of scoring, I'd be a bit put off, in my opinion. Best formation for Game Week 6? I don't think there's necessarily a best formation. It's just about the players you have. I think 3 at the back this week, considering the fact that Chelsea and City play each other. So maybe 3-4-3 or 3-5-2 is the best. I'd probably be inclined to say 3-5-2 with all the injuries to the strikers. But long term, I think 4 at the back is definitely a viable option. Foster over Sanchez for this week. It's Watford home. Yeah, Watford are at home, yeah, and Newcastle at home is probably a better fixture than Palace away. But the way I see it, Brighton are better than Watford, especially defensively, so it's a tough one. Pickford fit to play. Thank you, Matthew. Yeah, that's the thing, though. A lot of people were thinking of getting Begovic. I think Foster's fine anyway as a 4 million keeper. Since now Pickford isn't flagged, should I start Sanchez or Begovic? I mean, either way, you could just start Begovic, and if he doesn't play, then it's fine. Sanchez just comes on for him. So it depends if you back Everton more for the clean sheet than Brighton. So you could just start Begovic, and then if not, Sanchez comes on. From the press conference, Jordan Pickford's okay. He has been training, and Luca Digne's okay. Yeah, I mean, Rafa Benitez, though, he is a bit unreliable with press conferences. It's been kind of dated back to his Liverpool days. But yeah, I think they should be fine. And Luca Digne is someone who featured in my best free hit team this week. And, Pickford, now that he's available, since obviously the recording of that video, he's another one you could think of. Who should I start, Sanchez or Foster? Both good options. If you already have Duffy, maybe just go for Foster, but there's no right or wrong. I think they're both good options. Brighton are a better defence, but I'd say Watford arguably have the better fixture. Who would you bench between Buendia, Tony and Dallas? I'd probably bench Dallas, to be honest, and if not Buendia, but yeah, I'm not really too confident in any of them. Maybe Tony, but Liverpool is tough. Rafinha to Sarr for a -4. I'd probably keep Rafinha, especially if you have enough players. Who would be ahead in your bench, Ayling or Dallas? I don't think Ayling will even play, personally. I'd probably say Dallas. Rafinha was seen getting off the Leeds bus tonight. Take that however you will. Yeah, he could just be in the squad. He might not even start. So obviously take that with a pinch of salt. I've just said from the beginning, even before that news broke out, I think he will play, but he's touch and go. So he might be fine today, but then tomorrow he might not be ready to actually play the game, and vice versa. Thoughts about Dennis? Look, if you want to strike a really cheap around 5.2, 5.3 million, then yeah, he's the best one you can go for. But the way I see it, I would rather have a 6.5 million or 6 million striker like Armstrong, Edouard, say Maximan, Maupai, or even stretch that to a Jimenez, or just invest that money into the midfield and get a Sarr, Gray, etc. Then just get Dennis personally. And if not, you can just downgrade him to a 4.5 million striker, obviously, to facilitate that extra midfielder. McCarthy as the best fifth midfielder until under 5 million. I mean, not for me. I just don't really see it with McCarthy. I could be wrong, but not for me. This week belongs to Pascal Grosch. Trust me, that could be a good shout, to be honest. And Grosch, actually, a few seasons ago, very good in Sky Fantasy Football. What do you think about Rudiger plus James from Game Week 7 onwards? Very good duo, and it could literally be what we think of Rudiger and Alonso right now. It could be a very good pick, and I expect Reece James to start more games from now on, especially when the fixtures turn after the Manchester City clash. Yeah, I just went for Gray for the Norwich game. I'll downgrade him to a cheaper mid for some cash after next week. Makes complete sense, Kumar. And obviously, thank you very much for sending in your team the other day. Rafinha to Sarr or Benrahma? I'd say Sarr. At least, looking at the next two fixtures, definitely Sarr. Beyond that as well, Benrahma has some tough fixtures, but yeah, if you already have Antonio, definitely go for Sarr. Can't wait to get rid of Luke Shaw next week. Really disappointing though. United will keep more clean sheets and he would get more attacking returns. Yeah, I think United might keep more clean sheets now with the tougher games than they were before because they're more conservative in these bigger games. But yeah, Luke Shaw has been relatively disappointing and he reminds me a bit of Luca Digne, where both teams, they should keep more clean sheets but they don't, and they both should get more attacking returns, yet they just don't seem to do so. But I'd say Luke Shaw has been fairly decent this season, but obviously it's not been ideal. You'd expect him to do even better. You're really helping. Thanks again for the time and effort, and all the best for Game Week 6. Thank you very much, Michael Parkis. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you very much. Sarr or Gray for Traore? I'd go for Sarr. Benrahma, what's your take? I kept him because I looked at the fixtures against Leeds, and especially now with all the injuries, I think he's a great shout this week. And even against Brentford, which is his former team, by the way, I think that will be a bit tougher, but still decent on paper. I think Benrahma's a good pick still. Around his price, him and Sarr and Rafinha, I'd say, are the best ones you can go for. But of course, for a bit cheaper, you can get Gray, who has a great fixture against Norwich, and some good fixtures up until Game Week 12. And Gallagher is a very good long-term option if he can maintain those underlying attacking stats. With Benrahma, though, I mean, he's got some tough fixtures coming up. There's no doubt about it. And it's a bit tough to justify having him and Antonio ahead of that fixture run. But for the time being, I think they're both fine and they're both great options to have in your team. Dylan, since Rafinha will be playing for Brazil, should we be concerned that he won't be playing in the upcoming game weeks? That is a possibility. That's a very good point. If he's going to the red list country, which Brazil is currently, then he will be missing Game Week 8 potentially. And Game Week 9, he should be back. But that's always kind of in the back of your mind. But still, I think for the next few game weeks, he should definitely be back by Game Week 7. And I expect him to start in Game Week 6. What do you think about my genius tactic to sell Trent and get Robertson and Tsimikas? So if one doesn't play, the other one does and secures points. That's actually, it might sound ludicrous, but it's actually a good shout, to be honest. But I just think going without Trent at this moment in time, I'm just not too sure. I'd rather have Trent, but I see why you do that. And it does technically save money, but I'd rather have Livramento or Duffy as a fifth choice defender and then have Trent, Cancelo probably, and some Chelsea defenders. But still, that's a good shout. Quite unique. Do you think Jimenez will ever score? Definitely, Colin. I think he will score at some point this season. Will it be before the fixtures end? The good fixtures end in Game Week 14? Not so sure, but I think he will. I think he'll score a few over the next few game weeks, I'd say up until Game Week 14, but I don't think he's the same level of player as he was before. At least he's not yet. He has to recover. Hopefully he does. He was a quality player before. But yeah, I think he will score. What's the probability for Christensen to start since he did not play during the week? I think he will start. As a viewer said earlier, Chelsea could remain unchanged at the back. If anything, they might bring on Reece James and put Azpilicueta as a centre-back. That would possibly put Thiago Silva or Christensen in doubt to start, but I would expect him to play the game. And I think the fact that he didn't play during the week is a bit telling. Best Bamford replacement, if you don't have him already, definitely Antonio. It's a no-brainer. Then it gets a bit more complicated. If you already have Antonio, you've got Ronaldo, Lukaku, and they're kind of out of the equation. That's difficult. There's also Jimmy Vardy. I would recommend him for the next few game weeks. And if not, looking at a similar price bracket, I would definitely be looking at either Saint-Maximin, Maupai, and if you want someone really long term, I would probably be looking at Armstrong, and he's a great enabler in my opinion. Obviously, the fixtures aren't ideal over the next 2 game weeks, especially with Chelsea in game week 7, but looking beyond that, I think is a great choice. There's also Dennis, as people... Well, Dennis is decent. I'm not too keen on him. Joshua King's another one. But I'd mainly be looking at one of those other ones. And also Edouard, the forgotten man in a way. I think when the fixtures turn for Palace, he's another one to look at. Do you know when Antonio is locked on? He's locked on pretty much until the deadline. So after the deadline passes, he will then start to go up in price again. But for now, he's not going to go up in price or go down because he got sent off. And the same goes for anyone. Grob, not fit to start. I'm guessing you're saying Grosh. Yeah, 329 points in total. Should I wait for next game week for wildcard or wait out this week because I have 3 flags? Depends on who those 3 flags are. If they're Brownhill, Rafinha and someone else that could start, then it's not really a big deal. You don't have to wildcard next week or even in game week 8. And even with free transfers, you could, I'd say, deal with that situation. Brazilian players out, not for the time being, especially Rafinha, because I still believe he's a decent option. And even if he misses one game week, like game week 7 or game week 8, I don't think it's the end of the world. Start Greenwood or Saint-Maximin. I wouldn't bench either of them, to be honest, but it's really tough. I'd probably start Greenwood over the 2 of them, but then again, he could maybe not start. Should I keep Tsimikas on the bench? I probably would. I don't expect him to start this week. Thanks for your help as always, Dylan. Really appreciate you for your good work. All are from Malaysia, and I've been in all your streams, so I think you see me asking questions always. Yeah, I remember you obviously, and big up Malaysia. As I always say, thank you very much for tuning in once again. Obviously, massively appreciated. And good luck with game week 6 and the rest of the season. Playing wildcard in game week 8, thinking of rolling a transfer this game week and get rid of Salah for a 5.8 million mid and upgrade Scarlett to Lukaku in game week 7. Force on Odegaard or Kovacic as the 5.8 million mid and playing over Jota. Yeah, I mean, I'm not too keen on Odegaard or Kovacic. They can be decent options. Both of them former Real Madrid players, but I'm just not too sure as fantasy assets long term. Obviously, you're looking to wildcard soon anyway, so you want a short-term punt, but I'm just not too sure about both of them. Obviously, if you, for example, said, I'm going to get Sarr or Gray, then I'd be a bit more inclined to say for those transfers. And just getting rid of Salah, of course, it can backfire. I can see why you're doing it, though. He does face Manchester City. You have Salah against Brentford, and then you bring him out, and you get Lukaku in after he plays Man City, and then he plays Southampton. So that is a very good plan, and something I'd consider if I was definitely set on wildcarding in game week 7 or 8. But I mean, out of those 2, Odegaard or Kovacic, I mean, I'd probably say Odegaard, but I'm not too sure, to be honest. I mean, Kovacic has been better this season, and I wouldn't expect either of them to really get too many more attacking returns. Saint-Maximin or Jimenez? Over the next 2, Saint-Maximin. If you want them for a while longer, I'd say Jimenez. Captaining Jota as a differential, thoughts? Look, obviously that could be a great shout, and always back your gut. The reason why I'd say no is because Jota he's had great underlying stats, but he hasn't delivered. With Salah, Antonio, Ronaldo, they're just much more reliable captaincy shouts. And even Antonio as a captain, that would be more of a differential than the other 2, Salah and Ronaldo, but he could equally do very well. And his end product is way better than Jota's, by the way. Replacements for Jota, I wouldn't get rid of him this week, but what I would do with Jota, if you want to get rid of him now, maybe just get Gray or Sarr. I'd go for Sarr. And then long term, I'd definitely be looking at Rafinha and maybe Gallagher, looking really long term. Thank you for the super chat, Raj Dackle. Really appreciate it. Should I take out Tsimikas for Rudiger? Thank you. If you can do that, then I would consider it, to be honest. I mean, it depends on your situation, how many free transfers you have. If you've got 2, then I probably would do it. Tsimikas out, Rudiger in, and I think that would actually be a really good shout. And Rudiger is the safest pick from Chelsea, so definitely a great shout. He's someone I might get in for my own team, so thank you very much. What rank are you overall? It's on the left-hand side of your screen, mate. I'm 55k in the world right now. And I've got 387 points overall and 71 points in game week 5. Oh yeah, fair enough, you saw it. Should I get Rondon for Bamford for 1 week? I mean, I can see why. I probably wouldn't, but yeah. Rondon against Norwich, if there's ever a fixture he does well, it would be this one. Do you think Jota and Greenwood are going to start? I think both of them will start, but going forward, up until game week 7, for example, I'm not too sure. It could be Firmino coming in for Jota against Manchester City, and for the Everton game, it could be Greenwood making way for someone else. So that's where I'm a bit kind of, I'd say, hesitant and cautious, but for game week 6, I expect both of them to start. That's why I haven't made a transfer yet, because I'm not sure which one to get rid of, or maybe Tony instead, because I am keen on getting Sarr, but it probably means getting rid of Jota or Greenwood. What are your thoughts on Gray game week 6? I think he could be a great shout. I prefer Sarr as an overall asset, but for game week 6 specifically, he could actually outscore the Watford talisman. Ramsdale for goalkeeper. Look, he's a good shout, and so long as he can maintain his starting berth, he's probably the best option up until game week 20 in terms of value. The problem is, can he maintain that starting position? It's easier said than done. Leno is a good keeper. From next week, Sarr or Gallagher for the long term? Looking long term, just from a purely fixtures perspective, I'd say Gallagher, but I prefer Sarr. I think he's just more likely to get more points. CR7 or Salah for the captaincy this week? I'm going for Ronaldo myself, but that doesn't mean Salah's a bad option. I just think that Brentford are very good defensively, and it could be a very tight game. United are more likely to score 2 or 3 goals than Liverpool this week, and Ronaldo's at home. He is the bookies' favourite to score and to get a return this week. Thoughts on Reece James starting? There is the possibility where Tuchel doesn't make any changes, especially at the back, but I would expect Reece James to start in game week 7 onwards, at least for most of the fixtures, the positive, good fixtures they have. That fixture run is fantastic. But for game week 6 specifically, obviously, I did mention that before, where Reece James has started in every single game against Manchester City under Tuchel. That could continue, but that would require a bit of a shift up at the back. So it could be Azpilicueta going into the centre-back positions, and then either Christensen or Thiago Silva would be making way. Ronaldo, Salah captain. Yeah, once again, I'm going for Ronaldo, but Salah is a good option. Cavani is back. Why captain Ronaldo? Why not captain Antonio? Because I still expect Ronaldo to start. And once again, United, I expect them to score 2 or 3. Antonio and West Ham, same thing. I expect them to score 2 or 3. But I don't know. It's just I prefer Ronaldo. You know, he's at home as well. He's got the home advantage, and he's a more reliable player than Antonio, despite how good he has been. Trent captain, not this week in my opinion against Brentford, but he is always kind of a good differential shout. I just wouldn't go for it because I have a feeling that there is a chance that Brentford score. Thoughts on Gray? Great for game week 6. Good fixtures up until game week 12, but I would rather have Sarr if you could stretch to him. Jossine Brownhill meant to be dropping tonight. Was hoping he'd hold until maybe wildcard soon and could bin him for someone else. Quite irritating to maybe lose 0.1 team value on a bench midfielder. Yeah, but then again, I'm not really too bothered by that, and Brownhill should be fine for game week 6, if not game week 7, but yeah, obviously it's not ideal. That's kind of the problem when you have a player like that. Same with Foster, they're kind of more prone to these price drops. What was your plan on Tony later on? Good question. I mean, this is the thing. I either get rid of him now, or I just hold him. And if I do decide to hold and I get rid of Jota or Greenwood instead, my plan is to probably play Tony against West Ham and Leicester, and bench him against Liverpool and Chelsea potentially, and then have him for those 3 great fixtures from game week 10, 12, where he faces Burnley, Newcastle and Norwich, I believe. Very good fixtures. So that's probably what my plan would be. But otherwise, I'd be getting rid of him for a 4.5 million striker and then upgrading Ayling to a Chelsea defender. Who should I get for Bamford before our wild card next week? No money to spend. I mean, if you don't have Antonio already, definitely get him in, Eddie. But if you already have Antonio, then I would be tempted by, say, Maximan or Malpai, because you're looking for someone short-term. If it was someone long-term, I'd probably recommend Armstrong. Mount out for Sarr, I definitely would do that, Das. Thoughts on Vardy, please? I mentioned him in my preview. I think he's a great shout for the captaincy this week, and he's got some good fixtures coming up, so I think Vardy's a great choice. Mount isn't playing, yeah, exactly. Was Triple Wolves a mistake? I have Semedo, Sarr, and Jimenez. Should I replace one example, Semedo to Rudiger? Obviously, it's easier to say things, in hindsight, after things have happened. I think Wolves should be doing better. Obviously, their underlying stats are far better than what they've produced. But even back then, I thought 1 or 2 Wolves is fine. I think triple might be overkill. And I only went with Cody in the end. And I do regret it, to be honest. But that was an error on my part. There's the thing, though. If they delivered and you got those triple, Wolves players, you wouldn't be saying this. You'd be saying, oh, I made the right decision. These things can go for you sometimes. And then when you get rid of them, they can start doing well. So, look, I think 1 or 2 Wolves is still fine. I wouldn't be tripling up, though. And Semedo to Rudiger, definitely I'd go ahead with that. Sarr or Benrahma, I'd go for Sarr at this moment in time. Sarr or Rafinha, I'd probably go for Sarr, especially with the Rafinha injury doubt. Should I get Sarr for Gray if I only have 1 free transfer? Probably going to hold Gray to get a Chelsea defender next week with my 2 transfers. As much as I prefer Sarr over Gray, I wouldn't be getting rid of Gray ahead of Norwich. So I would probably hold and then get the Chelsea defender. It might not drop tonight. Many wildcards, data's not accurate. That's a good point. Zapruder. Either way, I'm not too concerned about the price drops. Is Matip nailed? In my opinion, he's not completely nailed. So Van Dijk and Trent pretty much are. Robertson was up until Tsimikas has shown great form. I don't think Matip is, especially with Konate, with Joe Gomez as well. There's other options. I don't think he is completely nailed, and he's injury prone, so I'd probably just avoid him. How many more weeks should I hold Jimenez for? He has to score soon, right? It depends on your team situation, obviously. If you don't have Antonio, then yeah, I would just get rid of him now. But otherwise, if you already have Antonio, you've got Ronaldo, Lukaku, and you've got a good team overall, I'd probably just keep him for another 2 or 3 weeks at least. And then if he doesn't show enough end product, and also just if the underlying stats start to drop, that would be very alarming, and I'd probably get off him. Who is the best defender of 4.9 million or below for the next 2 weeks? That's a good question. Let's actually see. Let me look at the fixtures once again. Refresh my memory. Next 2 game weeks, if I'm not mistaken, no. Okay, I was going to say someone, but no, not at this moment in time. That's an interesting question. I think over the next 2 game weeks, 4.9 million or under. That's a good question. Damn, that catch me off guard. Let's see. Yeah, let me know, chat, what you think. I'm still thinking about this. I don't want to take too long on this. I'd still say Duffy, but obviously he does face Arsenal in game week 7. That's not ideal. But yeah, 4.9 million or under. I'd probably go with a Wolves defender. I'd go with Semedo or Marçal, probably. So yeah, Semedo or Marçal, one of those 2. That's probably what I'd go for. Looking at the fixtures, purely looking at the fixtures. And if not, a Leicester defender, potentially. But then again, most of their kind of nailed defenders are 5 million or over. So yeah, Semedo or Marçal for me, despite their underperformance. Sanchez or Foster in goal? I have both. What do you think? Yeah, I mean, at this moment in time, I'm going for Sanchez. I think Brighton are a better defence, but Foster has the better fixture. And then again, Backman could come into the fray once again. So it's a tough one. If you already have Duffy in your starting lineup, then just go for Foster. Otherwise, maybe I'd be inclined to go for Sanchez, but I might change my mind on that. It's something that is very 50-50. Gallagher or Gray? For the next few fixtures, Gray, long-term Gallagher. Jota to Sarr, have 2 free transfers and I don't want to burn one. Yeah, I'm in a similar position to you, mate. I still would try to keep Jota if possible for this game week. And looking at game week 8, I think, when he faces Watford, that could be a really good one, especially if Firmino is going to be suspended because of the red list country, going on international duty to a red list country. So yeah. Sarr or Rafinha? I'd go for Sarr, mate, Ali. I'd go for Sarr. Tony or Saint-Maximin? For the next 2 fixtures, or even next 4 fixtures, I say Saint-Maximin, but long-term, Tony for me, definitely a better pick. Should I -4 and remove Bamford for Antonio? I probably would, even though I'm not too keen on hits. How is Rafinha thinking of rolling this week and bringing in both Rudiger and James Alonso next week if Rafinha isn't fit? I'll get Sarr thoughts. That's a tough one because Sarr is looking really good for the next 2 game weeks. I think Rafinha will play, but he's touch and go, as I've been mentioning throughout the stream. And Bamford's definitely ruled out. He wasn't really willing to say if Rafinha's playing or not, so it literally, I think, will be decided on the day. Who to start over? Christensen, Cody, Trent, Veltman, Allen, or Livramento? I would start Trent for sure. Once again, that shouldn't be a debate. Veltman and Livramento. Should I get rid of Jota or should I keep? I'd keep him at least for another week, and then ahead of Man City or Man United in game week 7 or 9, I would get rid of him. You think Antonio could go up in price tonight? I think he's locked in, mate, because he got a red card. So don't worry about price rises regarding Antonio. What's up, Dylan? Benrahma or Sarr for the next 2? Definitely Sarr, the hombre, and thank you very much for joining in. I need to know because I can't decide. Should I play Allen with Norwich at home or Jimenez with Southampton away? I'd definitely play Jimenez. I wouldn't be benching Jimenez for Allen. I have triple leads all injured. That's really unlucky, Joel. Should I transfer or save for 2 and get Lukaku next week? I probably would get rid of, because you probably have, I'm assuming, Ayling, Rafinha and Bamford. Rafinha is probably, the most likely to play. Bamford's definitely ruled out. So I'd probably move Ayling on. He's the one that just in general hasn't been doing too well. Leeds defence is awful. I don't expect them to start in game week 6. That's just a personal opinion. So yeah, I would get rid of Ayling, and if not, just get rid of Bamford for one of those strikers I mentioned throughout the stream. But yeah, Ayling is the weak spot. I'm assuming you have him. Semedo or Livramento for the start, mate? Tough one. I'd probably go for Semedo because he has a bit more attacking threat, but Southampton have been better defensively. Antonio Price is locked, exactly, Das. Any suggestions for 4.5 million defender to replace Ayling? Great question. I'd be looking at either Arsenal defender Ben White or Tomiyasu, and otherwise I'd be looking at Cody or Marçal. I think, well, he's 4.6 million, so if you don't have enough money for Marçal, I'd probably be tempted by Tomiyasu or White if you don't have them already. And of course, if you don't have Livramento or Duffy, they could be your 5th choice defender easily, and you can save a bit of money there as well. So yeah, any of those defenders I mentioned, I think long-term Arsenal defenders could be the one to go for. Trincao, hold or sell, considering I have to sell Bamford too? Great question. Yeah, because you have to sell Bamford too, and if you're looking to take a hit for that, I'd probably just keep Trincao. But if this is for 2 free transfers, maybe Trincao to Sarr, for example, and then you can do Bamford to, say, Maximan, Maupai, and Armstrong if you want someone long-term. Transfer plans. So once again, my transfer plans are very simple, at least to an extent. So Ayling is definitely someone I want to get rid of to a Chelsea defender like Rudiger or Alonso. The problem is, do I keep Tony or do I get rid of him? So if I get rid of Tony, he would go down to a 4.5 million striker like Richardson. Doesn't really matter who I get. And then I'd bring in Alonso or Rudiger. And if not, it will be Jota or Greenwood making way for Sarr, and that will give me enough money to do Ayling to Rudiger or Alonso. So that is kind of my dilemma at the moment. The way I see it long term, keeping Tony and getting Sarr in is the best option to go for. But I think it could bite me this week with Greenwood and Jota. I expect them both to start and to do well. But then, for example, you look at the other kind of possibility and downgrading Tony. I think short term, I mean, even then, I would argue the other one's probably looking better, but it's just, I'm not too sure about getting rid of Greenwood or Jota this week. It's a bit of a difficult situation, to be honest. And look, if I could get Sarr in for Brownhill, even for a -4, I would consider it as well. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough situation, to be honest. Yeah, and I want to have enough money to upgrade Ayling to one of these Chelsea defenders, because then I could do Shaw to another Chelsea defender or Cancelo. So that's kind of my transfer plans at the moment. Either Tony, Greenwood or Jota are making way, but Ayling is definitely going to be making way out of my team. So that's kind of how I'm thinking at the moment. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below and in the live chat. Wait, should I keep Jota or sell? I would probably keep him if possible. That's what I'm pretty much saying about Jota. Of course, if you don't have anything else to do and you're not sure and you want to get in Sarr or someone like that, then yeah, sell him. But I'd try to keep him in for this game week and possibly the Watford one in game week 8. If Rafinha plays against West Ham, what are his chances of scoring? Scoring a goal, not that high. He can still do it. I think that game could be very open-ended, and obviously Rafinha is one of the better options for Leeds. But with Bamford out, I don't know. I think Leeds could struggle to even score there. That's my opinion on the matter. But yeah, I think Rafinha could do well. He could get an assist or something. But in terms of scoring a goal, a bit less likely in my opinion. Damn, the last hour or so has gone very quickly. Thank you very much to everyone who has joined in and stuff. Remember to smash the like button. It really helps out the channel. Sanchez or Foster's a big dilemma, I think. I agree there, Umber. It seems very simple, but it's actually very difficult because, once again, Brighton, much better defence than Watford, but Watford have the better fixture this week. I have 0.5 in the bank. Should I sell Bamford to Jimenez or sell Ayling to 5 or less? Good question, Joel. I would probably sell Ayling to a 5 million or less because long-term Bamford is one of the best strikers you can go for. Ayling is just a very poor choice at the moment, and obviously I regret getting him. I had my doubts about him, and it's turned out to be a very bad move on my part as well. So I'd probably get a 5 million defender or less. You could get Christensen, for example, but let me actually double check Christensen's price. I'm not too sure if he's actually, let's see. No, he's still 5 million. Yeah, I'd still go for Christensen. The only problem with him is obviously it does prevent you from getting Rudiger and Alonso, which might be the ideal double up in Chelsea defence, and you probably want to have Lukaku up front, but Christensen will either start or not play at all, in my opinion, which is ideal for someone who's 5 million and playing in arguably the best defence in Europe. Put 2 to start and 1 bench. Christensen, Livramento and Williams from Norwich. I would start Christensen and Livramento and bench Williams, to be honest. What about Tony to Richardson and Brownhill to start? If that's for my situation on my team, I wouldn't be starting Brownhill anyway. So if I did Tony to Richardson, I would then start 4 at the back, and it'd be Alonso, Trent, Shaw, and Cody. It'd be Salah, Jota, Greenwood, Benrahma, and Antonio Ronaldo up front. I wouldn't be starting Brownhill this week if possible. Sarr for Greenwood, 1 free transfer. Yeah, I mean, it's a good move, and I think, look, Greenwood could do well this week and in game week 7, but Sarr should outscore him over the next 5-6 game weeks, especially if Greenwood starts to get rotated. Rafinha or Tierney to start? I would start Rafinha. In FPL, what do you think about the shortage of midfielders in 8 to 10 million price range? I think there might be more options coming about, but yeah, you look at Grealish, for example. He ticks over, he's quite nailed, but he's not someone I'd be particularly willing to get. I'm looking more so at Cancelo and Diaz from City. Also, Mahrez, he's just in and out of the team, so he's always kind of a void for me because he could have a great performance. He could even do really well in a 10-minute cameo, but he's just such a frustrating player to own. He's always in and out of the team, and there's other competitions. City have so much depth. So yeah, I think there is a shortage at the moment. Obviously, Son around 10.5 million. He isn't really doing too well at the moment because Spurs are so poor defensively, or not even defensively, offensively, and they're 19th for expected goals. But I think there will be more options coming about. Son, I think Sancho could, once he starts firing, if he does, I think he's also another one to consider. But yeah, at this moment in time, they're not offering great value. Sarr or say Maximan? Yeah, definitely Sarr for Daka. I'd do that. Pucci. Remove Lukaku for Ronaldo and take a -4? Probably not, because Lukaku from game week 7 onwards could outscore Ronaldo. So I wouldn't do that. Opinions on Rafinha? I think he's going to start. He's touch and go, obviously. And it obviously depends on how he feels tomorrow. But I think he's going to start. Should I sell Ronaldo when the fixtures get tough? Yeah, but once again, I think Everton at home is actually a good fixture. So there's no rush to get rid of him. But from game week 8 onwards, yeah, you could. Obviously, it's easier said than done because Ronaldo's been so good. But at 12.6 million he is now, are you going to be captaining him when he's facing Liverpool, Man City and all these teams? Probably not. So it's a bit of a difficult situation, and you probably want to be moving him on to Lukaku. For example, I think in game week 9 he has Norwich. And yeah, you don't want to have Ronaldo over Lukaku in game weeks like that. So I probably would get rid of him, but it's obviously very, very difficult to do. Triple Brighton defence or start Foster? I'd start Foster probably. I think triple Brighton defence might be overdoing it. Of course, if you really back Brighton to keep the clean sheet, then go for it. Ever thought about applying for the Arsenal manager's job, Dylan? You'd smash it, says Steve. I'm not sure about that, mate. I mean, even Arteta, as much as you probably don't, believe it, he knows much more about football than me. But yeah, I mean, yeah, there's no way to apply for that. Semedo or Soufal on the bench? That's a tough one. That's really tough. Before the Bamford injury, I would say start Semedo, but now I'd probably be inclined to start Soufal. I have Rafinha, Mount in midfield. Any ideas? Only got one transfer. I would get rid of Mount and I'd get Sarr in, John. Mount isn't playing, I don't think. Yeah, I think he's pretty much been ruled out, and this would be actually the first time he misses out for Chelsea through injury. Tony to Dennis for a -4. I probably wouldn't take a hit for that. And if anything, you could maybe just keep Tony long term. Should I hold Jimenez for another week or two if you can help it? I probably would. And Tony's going to run the show this week, potentially, to be honest. I think he's a very good choice for the captaincy this week. Marcel, Christensen, Livramento, choose one and sub 2 priority-wise. I would start probably Livramento, if not Marcel. That's a tough one. I mean, Christensen could keep a clean sheet against City. You never know. I think the points are in the defenders this season. I think if you're looking around that price, so 6 million, 6.5, I think, yeah, Chelsea defenders, City defenders, and Trent, of course, offer such great value. So, yeah, defenders this year compared to years gone by, probably offering even more value than before. Your top 3 captaincy picks this week. I mentioned this in my preview. I think I went with Antonio. I think Salah 3rd, Antonio 2nd, and Ronaldo 1st, something like that. But it could easily be Salah 2nd or 1st. I think all 3 of them are the best in whatever order you want to put them. If you're targeting the fixture, Antonio's the best. If you're looking at form, Ronaldo or Salah really, but they're all in great form. Why don't you bring Sarr then for Greenwood? 2 fixtures for Sarr is dangerous. You could miss massive points. Well, I mean, this is the plan. I want to get Sarr in. And if so, it'd probably be for Greenwood. So I am thinking about it. It's just very risky because I think Greenwood could maybe match Sarr over the next 2 game weeks, assuming he starts. But yeah, you didn't make a good point. And I might actually end up just getting rid of Greenwood, if not Jota. Would you sell Ferran? Probably, especially if you don't have Sarr. And I'd get Sarr in for Ferran Torres. Thoughts of getting rid of Rafinha or keep him for next week and use the transfer to upgrade Ayling on the bench to a 4.9 million defender? I'd probably use that money to upgrade Ayling to a 4.9 million defender. Obviously, it'd be ideal if you had 5 million, then you could get Christensen. But yeah, I'd probably be upgrading Ayling. Your thoughts about Adam Armstrong in the coming few weeks? I actually mentioned him as a replacement for Bamford, especially looking at the long term. So if you want someone short term for Bamford, I would get, say, Maximum potentially, if you're looking at someone kind of cheaper, or Maupai. But if you want someone long term, I think Armstrong is the one to go for. And yeah, he's a good pick, I think. Southampton offensively haven't shown too much, but defensively they've been a good team. And I think with the fixtures turning, I think around game week 8, that is when you could get on Armstrong. He's a great enabler, and that will enable you potentially to have Ronaldo and Lukaku up front, Salah and Trent at the back. But then again, it's very risky, to have Ronaldo and Lukaku. You might have an imbalanced team. Captain ranking, Antonio, Ronaldo, Salah, that's a fair shout. I think they're all great shouts this week. Shaw versus Digne. I mean, in terms of starting this week, I'd start both of them. I'm not going to bench one of them, in my opinion, but I prefer Shaw long-term over Digne. Hi Dylan, I have Rafinha, my starting 11 who is flagged. I have Brownhill and Marty and Bamford on the bench. I have one transfer, wanted to save my transfer for next week. What do you think? I believe Rafinha will start, and if you think the same thing, then I just hold Rafinha. Obviously, if it doesn't work out, then it is a bit frustrating, but yeah, I'd probably hold him. Jota out for who? In my situation, it'd be out for Sarr if I do get rid of Jota, but in your situation, yeah, definitely Sarr or Gray if you want someone short-term. Should I start Shaw or Digne? I'd start both of them, I wouldn't bench any of them, honestly. Marçal or Soufal on the bench? I'd start Soufal this week because of the injuries to Leeds, but that could obviously backfire. Both of them are capable of a clean sheet. Tony to Richardson and Brownhill to Sarr? Yeah, that's good moves, to be honest. And if you're on about my team, by the way, that is something I could potentially do. But yeah, I mean, I just really want those Chelsea defenders straight away, to be honest. But yeah, that is a good shout, to be fair. And if it's for your team, by the way, if you're asking for your team, I would probably actually think about it. If you have 2 free transfers, go for it. If it's for a -4, maybe still go for it. Still confused about Trincao. Should I go for Sarr? Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. For a hit, I'm not too sure, but I'd probably take the hit. It's very risky because Trincao has very good underlying stats, and you would think he's due. 5 best midfielders on a wild card. I'll be making a best wildcard team potentially for Game Week 7. And at this moment in time, I'd be saying Sarr, Rafinha still. I'd say Salah. If you want a midfield 5, yeah, that's where it gets a bit interesting. I mean, either Benrahma or you'd say Gray. And then either one of them, you could move to Gallagher when the fixtures turn for Palace. But that's obviously just a possibility, I think Gallagher might obviously regress a little bit. That could be a possibility. Things change, obviously. In 5 game weeks' time, we might have a completely different set of ideas. But Salah, Rafinha and Sarr, definitely 3 of the midfielders I'd go for. And then some of the others I mentioned. Then, I mean, if you're looking from game week 8 onwards, Torres has very good fixtures, but his rotation risk does put me off, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, they're all good options. And Greenwood and Jota look very good at the beginning of the season, but yeah, Jota just hasn't been delivering. He's got the underlying stats, and meanwhile, Greenwood doesn't have the underlying stats. And the focal point of the United attack is Ronaldo, so that's a bit of a difficult one. But yeah, definitely Salah, Rafinha, and Sarr would be my 3 to go for. Then it's just a matter of how you complete the rest of your midfield. That's why I'm a bit inclined to go for 4 in midfield and 3 in attack, personally. Will you be posting your team tomorrow before the deadline? Of course, I'll be posting it on the community tab and potentially on Twitter as well. This game week, Mina or Vestergaard? Great question. I'd probably start Mina based on the fact that Pickford's back. Otherwise, I would have said Vestergaard. 2 free transfers, force on Greenwood and Bamford to Vardy and Basuma for the next 2 game weeks until wildcard in game week 8. That could be a great differential, getting Vardy in and potentially captaining him in one of these weeks. Yeah, I probably would consider it. But then again, Greenwood, I think he could score against Villa and Everton. Is it still worth starting Diaz this weekend over Duffy? Sorry if you already answered this. Yeah, I think I answered this earlier, probably an hour ago or something. I think if you have Sanchez already, just go for Diaz. But otherwise, you could just start Duffy. I think Brighton are more likely to keep a clean sheet than City this week. I could see Chelsea scoring. Is Ayling out for this week, mate? It's not completely confirmed, but I think he's going to miss out. I think Rafinha will play. And yeah, I mean, this is the thing with Ayling. Either way, you probably would want to get rid of him. I think he's a weak link in my team, and that's why I want to get a Chelsea defender in. And that's why I'm not really thinking about going 5 in midfield. And getting rid of Tony, and because I just think Ayling is my biggest problem in my team. Start White or Rafinha? Yeah, I would still start Rafinha. Obviously, I can understand your concerns about a one-pointer and a late cameo, but I would still go for Rafinha. I have Sanchez and Gaeta as my goalkeeper. Should I replace one of them with Foster to get 0.5 million in the bank for future investment? Ooh, if you have 2 free transfers, then yes. Otherwise, I wouldn't be wasting a free transfer now because it limits your ability to be flexible in Game Week 7, where potentially you can make 2 free transfers, get Lukaku, or get a Chelsea or City defender in. Mendy to replace Sanchez, worth it? Already planning with 2 Chelsea defenders? Yeah, I can see what you mean there, but 2 Chelsea defenders is fine enough, and you can get Lukaku up front. And Mendy, yeah, of course, he's nailed. He's arguably a great option in goal, but 6 million is very expensive for an FPL goalkeeper. Who do I replace Bamford with? Already have Antonio Ronaldo, but I want to keep that free transfer for 2 Chelsea defence. Don't want Jimenez, already have 2 Wolves. In that case, I'd be looking at short-term Maupay or Saint-Maximin. And there's also obviously the Watford players, but I'd rather have Sarr over Dennis or King. And if you want someone long-term, definitely Armstrong. So that would be my kind of simplification of that matter. Would you start Livramento or Semedo? Probably Semedo because he has a bit more attacking potential. If it was Livramento or Marçal, I'd be tempted by Livramento, but that game could easily be 0-0. So it ultimately depends who you think is more likely to keep a clean sheet. And if you think both of them are, quite even, which is what I think, then just think of it as who is more likely to get an attack and return. But then again, Semedo's been a troll and Southampton have been better defensively. How long do you reckon Bamford will be out for? I think 1 or 2 weeks. So he'd be out for this week and potentially Game Week 7. Should be back by the international break for sure. But yeah, I mean, if you're asking me, like, what do I think is the most likely scenario? He misses out this week and he comes back for Game Week 7. Mount replacements other than Sarr, Jota and Gray? Great question. I'd still say Rafinha, but the thing is, it's a very awkward time to bring him in because he might not even start. But long term, definitely Rafinha. He'd be the kind of no-brainer pick. Other than that, there is still Benrahma. There's still Gallagher. But yeah, I'd mainly be looking at Rafinha long term. Jota to Sarr or keep Jota and roll? That's tough. That is really tough. I mean, over the next 2 weeks, I'd expect Sarr to outscore Jota and Rafinha, to be fair. But yeah, that's a tough one. I'd probably keep Jota on hold, and then you have more transfers going into Game Week 7. Thoughts about Southampton keeper McCarthy? Not really considering him at the moment. I'd rather have Livramento in the defence, to be honest. Livramento for Marçal? Yeah, I'd probably start Livramento over Marçal, but there's not much in it. It's a 50-50. Just back your gut on who you think is going to keep a clean sheet or who's more likely to get an attack and return. Greenwood will not play more than 70 minutes. Sarr has nailed 90 minutes, but scared selling Greenwood for Sarr. I'm exactly in the same position as you, child pranksters. I'm potentially going to keep Greenwood, and if not, he'll be making way for Sarr. Greenwood or Jota? I think Jota. I think Jota probably. I mean, this is the thing. Beginning of the season, I said Greenwood. But obviously with Firmino being injured, I've gone for Jota. And with Ronaldo coming in, that's how things can change so quickly in FPL. Thank you very much, The Galactic Hobbit. Thank you very much. Obviously, you didn't have to. Appreciate it very much. And you say, thanks for replying, Dylan. You're a legend. No problem. I try my best. Obviously, it's impossible to reply to everyone, but I do try my best. What do you think? And obviously, thank you very much, The Galactic Hobbit. Very good name. What do you think, or who do you think will win Chelsea versus Man City game, Dylan? As I said in my preview, I think Chelsea. Also, City have a few injuries. So Laporte and Stones, last time I checked, they were injury doubts. And Ake, I'm just not too confident in him. Then there's also Gundogan, he's an injury doubt. And yeah, Chelsea just have pretty much everyone available and they're in such fine form, other than Mount, obviously. I just backed Chelsea to win that game. 1-0 or 2-1. I went with 2-1 in the prediction. Who to start? Cody, Livramento, Matip, Diaz, Soyuncu. I would start Matip, Soyuncu. I mean, I don't know how many defenders you want to start, 3 or 4. I'd be benching either Diaz or Cody. To bench this game week, James or Torres, I don't want to bench either of them. Oh my God. Torres is such an awkward one to bench, but I'd probably say him. I don't know about benching him. I don't know. That's a tough one. Maybe flick a coin, but I'd probably say Torres. Dylan, who would you captain between Vardy and Bruno? Tough one. Probably Vardy. In my rankings, I put Vardy 4th and Bruno 5th, but they're both great options this week. If it wasn't for Ronaldo, I'd probably say Bruno over Vardy, but yeah, I'd say Vardy right now. Rotation for Jota when Firmino comes. Can we rely? It could be an an issue. It could be Jota coming on sometimes for 30 minutes or just playing 70, 80 rather than the full 90. So this is things that we have to consider. Same with Greenwood when Rashford comes back. It's really difficult, but I think with Firmino potentially going on international duty with Brazil for the World Cup qualifiers, he could miss out in Game Week 8, for example, and that's when Liverpool play Watford. Let me just double check that, but I'm pretty sure that's right. Yeah, Game Week 8, they play Watford, and if that's the case, Firmino travels with Brazil. They're still a red list country, which they probably should be. Then yeah, Firmino will be out, and that paves the way for Jota once again. Marçal or Livramento, I also have Jimenez, so it feels wrong starting Livramento. Yeah, in your case, maybe just back Wolves all the way and go for Marçal. Once again, I only said Livramento over Marçal because, I mean, why did I say it? That's a good point. I see it as a 50-50 game. I went with a 0-0 in my prediction. I could be wrong about that, by the way. But I don't know. I think Livramento might offer a bit more attacking potential. And also Southampton, if I had to pick a team to keep the clean sheet, I'd probably back them a bit more based on what I've seen so far this season. It's a really 50-50 decision, so just back your guy on that one. But I'd probably say in your situation, just start Livramento or start Marçal. Who should I replace Bamford with? Jimenez? Jimenez is still a good option. But short term, looking for 2-3 game weeks, I'd probably say Saint-Maximin or Maupay. And if you don't have Sarr, maybe go for King or Dennis. And if you're looking long term, definitely go for Armstrong. That would be the simple one. I think Chelsea also with a clean sheet. Yeah, it's possible. Could be a 1-0. Could even be a 0-0, to be honest. I mean, that game should be interesting, to be honest. What do you think about De Bruyne in the coming weeks? I want to bring a City player in the future. I think he's a wait and see. This is the thing, though, with him. Obviously, he's a great asset. He's so consistent. He's a great assister. But Salah, better option. Then you look at in the attack, Lukaku and Ronaldo, in my opinion, are better options. Even Bruno, quite similar. He's a bit cheaper as well. This is the thing with De Bruyne. I'm just not too sure. I'd wait and see, and I'd rather get Cancelo and Diaz at the back rather than having De Bruyne. But of course, when the fixtures turn for City around Game Week 8 up until Game Week 18, you want to have a City attacker. He's the most nailed, arguably, or one of the most. So I can see why you want to do that, but just at this moment in time, not for me. Jota out or Greenwood out first? Tough one. It's really tough. I'd probably say Greenwood out first, but I'm literally not even fully settled on that yet. In Game Week 7, I'd expect Greenwood to outscore Jota, especially if Greenwood starts, but will Greenwood even start against Everton? We don't know. I expect him to start in Game Week 6 though, and both of them could easily do well. Start Rafinha or White Livramento? I would start Rafinha, but Livramento's not a bad option to come off the bench, and White would be kind of last there. Trincao to Sarr for a -4. Says kickoff, try payments. Yeah, I probably would go ahead with it, even though Trincao can do well. It's obviously going to be a risk. And it's just typical, when you get someone in, they're doing so well but don't get the points, you get rid of them and then they finally deliver. Firmino not in the Brazil squad. I haven't actually seen the full lists yet. I mean, I don't think they're even out yet. It's still a few weeks down the line. It's in October, these games. And for example, I haven't seen the Argentina squad, but Brazil tend to be one of the earlier ones, so something worth keeping an eye on. Hello Dylan, hope you're doing well today. I'm still a bit ill, but with a cough, but doing okay. Have you taken a minus hit this week? Hopefully you get well soon, Adil. I remember, obviously, we're talking about some remedies and ways to get better. Hopefully you do soon. I haven't taken a hit this week. I'm thinking of making 2 free transfers, either Tony to Richardson, and then getting a Chelsea defender in for Ayling. If not, it would be Greenwood or Jota making way for Sarr, and then bringing in a Chelsea defender for Ayling once again. Of course, one other thing I could do is just keep Ayling, which I'm not really too keen on, to be honest, and then doing Brownhill to Sarr. I could do that too, and then go 5 in midfield, but I don't know. I would rather have the money to invest in my defence and then get Alonso, Rudiger, Cancelo, maybe for the likes of Cody, Shaw and Aylings. That's something I am considering. So that's kind of my plans at the moment. Let me know what you think, Adil, and hopefully you get well soon. Swap Tony with Maximan. Yeah, I think, look, if you're looking for someone around the same price, Maximan and Maupay are great options for the next 2 weeks. Long term, once again, Armstrong. If you're looking for the long term and you're not wildcarding in Game Week 7 or 8, I would probably consider keeping Tony and not getting Maximan in. But if you are wildcarding in Game Week 8, then yeah, just get, say, Maximan or Maupay in. Should I take a -4 and get Lukaku and Sarr for Bamford and Bruno? That's a tough one. I mean, this is the thing. You're getting Lukaku in, who plays Man City. Tough one. You're taking a hit for that as well. Obviously, Sarr could be really good and it pays off the hit. But getting rid of Bruno for a hit, I don't know. That just doesn't sit right with me. But obviously, Bamford won't play. If I had to, then yeah, maybe go ahead with the hit. But I don't know. Just getting rid of Bruno this week just doesn't sit right with me. and I can see why you're doing it. I think as a duo, Sarr and Lukaku could outscore Bruno pretty much. But will they outscore him by 4 points? I'm not too sure. The hit will pay off long term, I think. I'm just not so sure about this week. How much is Ramsdale nailed? Not completely nailed in my opinion. I think one really good performance by Leno or a somewhat shaky one by Ramsdale could easily result in Leno reclaiming his spot. Sarr in for Jota this week or save transfer? I think Sarr will outscore Jota over the next 2 weeks and potentially even beyond. But I think Jota could do well this week. That's the thing. And it could easily backfire. If you had to, I'd probably go ahead and get Sarr in. But Jota isn't really a bad option to keep this week, in my opinion. Sanchez or Foster for game week 6? At this moment in time, I'm going with Sanchez, but Foster's also a good option. Sarr or Benrahma? I prefer Sarr, but Benrahma's a good choice too. Rafinha to Sarr for a -4. I think looking at the short term, I would do it, take the hit. But if you are not wildcarding in game week 8, then I would just keep Rafinha. Rate my team: Sanchez, Trent, White, James, Semedo, Sarr, Jota, Salah, Rafinha, Antonio, Captain, Ronaldo, Dennis, Livramento, Trincao. On the bench, should I change the starting 11? Personal opinion, I think you have so much squad depth, but it does cause some rotation headaches and team selection headaches. Like Trincao and Livramento, you could easily start this week, even Dennis, so it's a tough one, to be honest. I think one thing you could consider is maybe downgrading one of your options to 4.5 million, 4 million bench fodder options, and then using that money to invest and upgrade the rest of your defence, for example, and then get more City, more Chelsea defenders. That's what I'd probably be looking to do, but it's a good team. You've got a lot of squad depth, but arguably too much, in my opinion. But yeah, it's a good team and a good captaincy shout. You have Jota and Greenwood rotation risk. Why are you not removing them, but focusing on bringing Chelsea defenders? Your defenders are nailed and have good defenders, good fixtures too. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I've shown some possibilities. It's just one example where Tony's out. The other one is getting Sarr in for either Jota or Greenwood. I haven't fully committed yet. If I had to admit and say which one am I leaning towards at the moment, it's making the midfielder transfer, but I'm just not too sure about getting rid of Sarr or getting rid of Jota or Greenwood. Should I keep Bamford and bench him this week or sell him? I have one free transfer. If you have enough cover, then keep him. Otherwise, I'd sell him. And then obviously not an ideal position going into game week 7, but you might be wildcarding in game week 8 anyway. Gray or Sarr? I prefer Sarr, but in game week 6 specifically, Gray could easily do just as well, if not better than Sarr, but I prefer Sarr. Ailing to Rudiger -4? Probably not. If you have enough cover and you've got a starting 11, which is good, just avoid the hit and make the transfer next week. Who's your captain this game week, pal? My captain is Cristiano Ronaldo. I have considered Antonio and Salah. I've discussed all of them in detail, but I'm going for Ronaldo at this moment in time. And in terms of transfers, I'm thinking of getting Sarr and a Chelsea defender in. And if not, maybe just downgrading Tony to a 4.5 million striker. What about Son as a captain this week? Not for me. I wouldn't go for that. I'd rather have Ronaldo, Salah or Antonio. Of course, Son has a good record against Arsenal, but not really a captainable fixture in my opinion. Of course, I could be wrong. He could get double digits and it's possible, but I probably wouldn't go there. Sorry I came in late. Who are you captaining this week? It's Ronaldo, mate. Ronaldo's my captain. In game week 7, should I do White to Christensen? I probably wouldn't, because White's a good option up until game week 20. If possible, if you have like Cody, for example, or Marcel, you could maybe move one of them to Christensen, but they're all good. Thank you for replying to every question. Love from Nepal. It's time to sleep now. Please do a deadline stream tomorrow. I'll put a poll out if I am able to. Poll out, by the way. Yeah, I'll put a poll out. If I'm able to, then yeah, I will do a deadline stream tomorrow as well. I mean, think of it as 2 deadline streams. That would be a bit awkward, but yeah. Let me know, guys, if you want, and girls, if you want to see a deadline stream tomorrow as well. It's just I tend to do on Friday because a lot of people like it, and also it's quite different from the rest of the content creators who tend to do it on the Saturday just before the deadline. Why aren't you so keen on Ailing? Because Leeds are poor defensively, and he's not offering that much attacking threat for me to really go for him. And I could easily just go big at the back, use him, sacrifice him, get Cancelo, get Alonso, get Rudiger, and then go all out on the defence and really target those really good defences. Dylan, which 3 defenders would you start? Trent, Cancelo, Rudiger, Alonso, Duffy? Definitely Trent. Once again, he shouldn't be in the mix in these discussions, especially with Brentford. I would start Alonso because of his attacking threat, and Duffy. Yeah, I'd probably go with that. Dylan, you should get Livramento instead of Ailing, I guess. That's also a good shout. So let's see. So let's put this into practice. Let's get Richardson in. Let's get Sarr in the midfield. And then I have 5 million remaining. I could even get Christensen, for example. Or, yeah, well, I could get Livramento. That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, looking at this game week in particular, and looking at Tony's fixtures over the next 4, the smart play would be keeping Greenwood and Jota for now, getting Sarr in, making 2 free transfers. Obviously, the bad thing about this would be I'm going into game week 7 with no Chelsea players, and if I want to have 2, I'd have to take a hit, which I probably wouldn't really be too inclined to do, and I'd still have Ayling, and the only way to get a Chelsea defender in would be doing Ayling to Christensen. So there's good things and bad things about each one of these possibilities, and obviously if not, I can just get Sarr in and get a Chelsea defender immediately, and then after that I can focus on potentially doing, let's say, Luke Shaw to Marcos Alonso, and then after that maybe, I don't know, I could get Cody to Christensen. So what I could do actually is, let's say with these transfer plans going into game week 9, I could have something like this, and I can have Cancelo in the defence, and instead of Cody, I don't even have enough for Christensen. I could find a way, of course. I just think, yeah, it's a tough one, you know. You can't have the perfect team. Maybe instead of that, just keep Cody, and then do Ronaldo to Lukaku, and that will give me enough money, potentially. But you see, there's always kind of caveats, there's things that can change, and I've got, you know, some ideas, but I'm also trying to be open-minded and see, you know, where this takes me. But at this moment in time, yeah, I mean, I think what you say is right. Livramento could be the smart pick, you know, getting him in at some point, whether it's this game week or next game week, and focus on just getting Sarr and getting rid of Tony. So let me know what you guys think, of course. I'll put a poll out later on asking you lot what you think. It'll be very interesting to see, but I'm probably not going to fully decide on this until tonight, if not tomorrow morning. So that should be very interesting. Which game week? Oh, gee, again, another voice crack. And I'll be ending this stream soon, by the way, but thank you very much to everyone who has joined in. Which game week is best to bring in Cancelo? City has tough opponents in the coming weeks. Probably game week 8. If you look at the fixtures, they've got Liverpool and Chelsea away next. Obviously, Chelsea first. Then from game week 8 onwards, very good fixtures, obviously excluding Man United. I think Everton's a good fixture. Shouldn't be marked 4 on the FDR. And yeah, the rest is pretty fine. West Ham isn't easy. But yeah, look up until game week 18. Fantastic fixtures. So yeah, game week 8 is when the fixtures turn for Manchester City, and that's when you'd want to get Cancelo. Yeah, do it, says Versta. I think you're on about the 2 free transfers where I get Sarr and Richardson and I replace Tony. That obviously for this game week specifically, it looks good. I'm just a bit worried about the Chelsea defenders, but then again, this could kind of lend itself into playing a wild card in either game week 7 or 8, and I'd be more inclined to play in game week 8. So that's something I'm considering. I might actually do this instead and then play the wild card in game week 8. So yeah, if I do go ahead with these 2 transfers, yeah, the wild card could be played very soon. Is Antonio a must-have asset? Considering the lack of options up front, especially reliable ones, I'd probably say he's close. He's very close to must-have or essential. So I would definitely get him in if you don't have him already. Marcel to Christensen then? Yeah, I probably would consider it, to be honest. Christensen and Chelsea will probably outscore Marcel and Wolves. Chelsea fixtures will change better after this game week. Do you look for changing Ronaldo for Lukaku? Around game week 7 or 8. There's no rush to get rid of Ronaldo, but of course, I'd want to have Lukaku in ahead of game week 9 against Norwich. That is definitely one fixture I want to have him in for. Saint-Maximin or Jimenez? For the next 2 or 3, I'd say Saint-Maximin. Long term, Jimenez has better fixtures and underlying stats, you'd say. But yeah, I mean, look, there's no right or wrong there. I think they're both good choices. Jimenez historically is a better player and reliable pick. But I don't know, we just need to see more from Jimenez and Wolves. Should I bench Sarr, Dennis or Benrahma this game week? It's tough to bench any of them, but I'd probably bench Dennis. But he could easily do well. What do you think of my midfield? Benrahma, Greenwood, Jota, Salah, Gray, forward CR7, Antonio. It's a very good attack. I think for this game week specifically, there's nothing wrong with it. Obviously, you don't have Sarr. I mean, you can't have everyone, of course. You've got 5 very good options there. But yeah, Sarr would be the kind of main guy missing. Still really good attack. What about triple Chelsea defenders for the coming weeks? Alonso, Christensen, Rudiger. I would rather have 2 Chelsea defenders, and that enables you to get Lukaku in up front. But triple Chelsea defence, there's nothing wrong with it. I think I've got it in my Sky team. I think I've got Mendy, Alonso and Rudiger. But yeah, I mean, it's nothing wrong with it. I would rather have 2, probably Alonso and Rudiger, and have Lukaku up front, but Christensen's also a great pick. Sarr is increasing in price tomorrow. You have to do it anyhow. Sarr for Greenwood, potentially. And if not, it will be for Brownhill and then Tony down to Richardson. Thank you very much to everyone who has joined in. Still a lot of people watching. Really appreciate it. This has gone really quickly, by the way. It doesn't feel like it's been going on for 2 hours and 20 minutes. And if you haven't already, remember to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Really appreciate all the support. Thank you to everyone for the super chats. Really appreciate you don't have to. But of course, massively humbled by that. And remember, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Dylan_RCM. You can send me in your teams. And whenever I do a Rate My Team video, rating your team videos, you will potentially feature if you send a clean cropped image. And you can also talk to me about UCL Fantasy, FPL and football. There'll be more UCL Fantasy content coming over the weekend. And I'll also be putting a poll out to see when you want to see a reaction stream. But I think I will be unavailable on Sunday, so I might have to do it on Saturday like I did last time. And a lot of you enjoyed it and liked the timing and all of that. But of course, I'll ask you a lot for your feedback. Thank you very much to everyone who has been watching. If I haven't answered any of your questions, feel free to put them in the comment section below and I will be answering them as soon as possible. But once again, thank you very much for tuning in and I'll see you next time.